Russell, maybe we can just start with the injuries. Which of those players are going to be back before the Ireland test, and maybe if you can just run through them for us?
Yeah, sure. Hello everybody. So Stephen Kitsoff will be out, Jean Klein will be out, Laurie Jager will be out, Jael de Pre will be out, Jaden, Henko, which we had in camp, Kanan, Damien, and Currie. Those will be the guys who's not available.
Is that just for Wales now?
Of the first Ireland test match also.
Okay.
Hi, Rusty. If the Bulls lose on Saturday, could they be included in the Wales team, or is it too late? Is that ship sailed?
No, I think in certain positions, yes, definitely. If you look at the squad that we have here currently, we're gonna hopefully announce our team internally on Sunday, so the guys can from Monday, especially the newer guys in the team, get settled before we fly out Wednesday. So in certain positions, we will be a few young guys next to each other. Then some of the Bulls guys, which we know, understand how we want to play and change a few things. Some of them has been, most of them has been at alignment camps. So I don't think everybody that will eventually be involved with the Irish test matches will get drafted in for the Wales test match, just for the pure fact that they haven't really trained with us apart from next week. So, but then where there's a hell of a lot of experience, and we've got already a few injuries on the outside backs, on the wingers. Cheslin is touch and go to be ready then, but Mapimpi is fine, and we might be thin there, but then we've got Horn and we've got Fussy, but a guy like Willie Leroux might be somebody who can just help settle down the combinations there. So yeah, depending on how the guys do tomorrow and injury-wise, but it wouldn't be ideal for them just to have trained 3 training sessions and play a test match against Wales.
Russell, just on that, how important will it be for South African rugby that the Bulls put in a strong performance against Leinster on Saturday?
No, very important. I mean, as much as I would love to have them in our camp and be with us every single minute since last week, since Monday, and the alignment camps and everything. Leinster is, I think all countries are striving to have a franchise like Leinster. I mean, they do sometimes lose big matches, but they're consistently, in the top 4, in the final or host the final, and obviously that gets transferred into the national team. So, for us, if the Bulls can pull this one through, I think it's going to be really, really tough. But if the Bulls can pull it through, we're fully behind them, and if it means we have to play without the Bulls players, but the South African franchise goes through, I think that's very important, and will boost us overall to eventually get Champion Cups victories and so on. I think the URC is another step. It's not only the Stormers, vitally important.
Russell, in terms of your selection policy, if you like, for Wales, is it kind of a balance between holding guys back for Ireland, keeping guys in cotton wool, giving newcomers a chance, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, I think we're at a stage where we don't have the luxury of keeping guys in cotton wool. Simple thing is a guy like, if you just take Ox, has played a lot, but he's not tired, he's not punch drunk. Same with Vincent, same with France. Khalek Gerritsen did really well for us last year. When he comes available, he'll probably be someone who just slots in. He's not old and punch drunk, So then a guy like Malcolm is somebody you probably want to manage a little bit, and with the other hookers around, you have to think carefully, because you want to see some new blood playing, but then also you don't want to do what happened in 2018, where we blooded a hell of a lot of guys, but we lost the test match. So we want to win the test match. We want to manage some guys getting back from injury, and then we also want to try and get some youngsters through. So it is a bit of I won't say a balancing act, but as the weeks go on, we get clarity. Okay, Malcolm can play in that game. Okay, Cheslin, we have to manage him still. Currie is still out. So yeah, as the weeks go on, but I think putting them in cotton wool they won't be then match fitness and almost battle ready for Ireland, you know. And Wales is certainly no pushover as we've always experienced.
Russell, just following up on that, looking back in hindsight, the decision in that 2018 game against Wales to blood a lot of people. Looking back in hindsight, do you think it was worth it, even though you lost, or would you rather have actually just won that test and maybe fielded a stronger team?
I think twice against Wales, was it, that we picked, didn't we Wales the other year also in the second test match, pick a totally different team. We lost that match, but then I certainly think it paid off for some guys who made the step up from maybe playing a tier 2 team, playing a tier 1 team, then playing maybe the All Blacks or teams who's number 1 and 2 in the world. But also, you know, we all understand that losing a test match, obviously there comes negativity, there comes a bit of worry with that, there comes a bit of pressure with that. So without a doubt, you know, we have to keep our long-term hat on. But as we all know, as South Africans, for ourselves, our players and our management, you don't want to make it easy. Those guys must still be able to win that test match. I think that's the most important thing.
Rassie, in terms of those youngsters, you've brought in quite 11 uncapped players. You know, it's quite a nice, big, exciting group, getting a lot of experience now, you know, going into this Wales game. But also there are a few guys that missed out, you know, a guy like Solomon Hartzenberg down in Western Cape, Snelo Nahamba, I think even Warwick Land, you know. Would those guys come in to the possible squad after the Wales test, or do you think you'll be more bringing in more experienced guys to bolster ahead of Ireland?
Yeah, remember when we played 5 and 9 and 10 at the World Cup, you know, there's always, and fully understand it, that there's question marks around that, you know, and we know Faf can do what Sanele do at 9 and 10, because we've been seeing him at training sessions, seeing him play for Sale Sharks there, and I mean, he played for us in the World Cup, so, yeah, we've got so many great scrum-offs, and I actually think with Jaden being injured now, Kobus Reinig is playing really, really well for Montpellier as well. We've got 4 or 5 flyers now here currently, and it depends, you know. If things goes well, then one can, not that I say Portugal will be easy in Bloemfontein. We see what they did to Fiji, so but we'll certainly pick our games where we blood some youngsters, and for me, Sanele is almost not a youngster. He's a guy that's been around the block. Him and Jaden was together in the junior Springboks. He can play 9 and 10 now, so he's definitely somebody that's versatile, and 1 or 2 injuries, and a guy like him might be pulled up. But yes, I can't say now what we're already going to do, because I'm not quite sure. We first must see how does the guys go against Wales. Did we build momentum? Are we going in the right direction? Then it's a home series against Ireland, which win is paramount, like all test matches. And then a Portugal test match become, are the squeeze on us, or are we a bit out of the pressure zone, if I can call it that way. And that will certainly have an influence on our selection.
Rusty, just you picked 3 locks. Eric is obviously going to become available at some point, but Ruth and John, are you maybe a bit thin then, or have you got other plans for them in general?
No, we are a bit thin, but you know, Salman has been pushing really hard always. Again, a guy who's coming from a junior Bokke, being captain there, and always when it's his turn, there's just a bad injury, you know. So he would have been a real contender going to the World Cup last year, but then he got that long-term injury. He's looking really good, typical front lock type of, and with him and RG and Eamon being solid front locks, and we know Sous can call, and RG can also call at 5, which he did. Definitely, you know, 1, 2 of the Bulls guys would be lovely to see how it goes this weekend against Leinster, who forms a big part of the Irish team, and that might definitely sway us in that direction. And then obviously you've got Pieter Stevens-Toy, who can easily slot in for you at the 5 lock and can call the lineouts. But I agree with you. I remember when it was Jean Klein, RG, Loert, all of those guys last year, just being in the huddle. The huddle was much taller than it's currently. So, but we're looking at that.
Coach, with all of these new players coming in, them 12 of them, what for them to have a long-term future in the Springboks, what do you want from them? What are you expecting from them? And what are you looking at specifically for them to stay in the team? For Ireland and Rugby Championship?
Everyone is different, you know. A guy like Edwell, for example, now with the way he's training and the way he's putting up his hand, and the moment if he'll start feeling comfortable and safe in the environment and can be himself and within our systems, you know, do things that other players can't do. Like Cheslin, we pulled him in cold 5 days before New Zealand Test match, and he just slotted in. These boys have now a chance to have been at alignment camps, virtual, in person at Cape Town, and now having a full camp week and next week a Test match week. You know, it's all about how quickly they understand, how quickly they don't have to think too much. Things come naturally, so that the reason why we pick them is they've got something about them, and that's what we see, or which is different from other players which we did not pick, that we want to see come through, whilst feeling settled and being themselves in the environment. And that's also up to our coaches to help them to bring to the party what they have, and that's what I hope to see.
This is maybe a follow-up on what Morgan asked. Looking ahead at the Portugal test, which is still far away.
Yeah.
But how would you approach a test like that with a second-tier team, if you want to call it that? Do you want to bleed the youngsters there? Would it be a mix of experience with these youngsters? How would you approach that?
Yeah, I'm trying to say it in better words. You know, I think it all goes with momentum. The previous times, remember we didn't have 2020s to build after 2019, but then we did have the next year, but it was the Lions series as well. But if the momentum is going with you and everybody's positive, and I can almost say the vibe around the Springboks from you guys, from the supporters within the camp, then it's easy to make some changes, and it's always a positive thing. So the first thing is, you know, if this Wales Test match goes well, one can say, okay, 6 or 5 of the guys made it really, and we've got them as bankers. And some of them might play themselves into the Irish series because some boys are not available yet, like the guys who play in the Premiership and in France, and then obviously the Bulls are not available currently. So yes, if everything goes to plan, not because we don't rate Portugal, but because we've got momentum and things goes well, then it's a good game to, I wouldn't say just throw in a lot of youngsters in there. I think still you'll have to have a good spine in there that helps those youngsters. But some of them might get experience now against Wales already. So I hope it makes sense. It's just how the momentum goes at that stage.
Of course, just looking at your hooker situation, it seems like it's a healthy situation to have, especially when you have a player like Malcolm Mouse coming back. But you also might want to give a player like Andrew Hupelfeld an opportunity in the Green Court. How do you balance that between maybe giving an opportunity and also giving rugby to the legs of Marks, who hasn't played rugby since the injury in France?
Yeah, I see the big thing is they train against each other, and sometimes our scrum sessions and mauling sessions and line-out sessions, we sometimes put each other under more pressure than we sometimes experience in games. So having them in training camp now, scrumming against Joseph, scrumming against Bongi, feeling Ox on this side, you know, feeling France on that side, you learn a lot, and you see a lot of the guys. So again, a guy like Grobbies, you know, he's been doing really, really well for the Bulls. You know, we even had Marco van Staden in the last 2 games of the World Cup, who helped us out there. Who I really think it's somebody, you know, where we can take sometimes a chance if you pick squads, because he really can fit in both those roles. But then again, there's a guy like Wessels from the Bulls who now is a very versatile prop and hooker, which bodes well for the future. When we look to 2027, I mean, there's certainly the names you mentioned, Andre Guventer, Wessels, Grobbies, and a guy like Malcolm and those guys. So we were really thin last year when we got in that final game against at the World Cup. It looks pretty okay now.
Russ, just in terms of captaincy, obviously no CF next week whether they're easier to be captaining for, but after you name that squad for Ireland, will you make an announcement on who's going to be the long-term captain or kind of go game by game?
No, we will announce the captain. This week it will probably be, to be honest with you, inside the team, the captaincy is not such a big thing. Obviously, the long-term permanent captain is something. But when we go into this World Test match without Sia and without seeing if Sia comes without an injury back to South Africa, and we can assess him and see how he slots in and those kind of things. We have 2 weeks after the World Test match. But yeah, it will probably be Peter Steph-Tutoy or Eben. It can be Bongi, but then you might want to start Malcolm to manage his game time so that if Bongi goes down in 10 minutes, Malcolm doesn't have to play a full 70 or something like that. So, but I must say the guys all are leading really well. The core of the group that's been with us for 4 years, they understand that there's youngsters around them. Everybody's coaching with us and helping with us. So we'll make that call on Sunday night after the Bulls game internally, and we'll announce a captain for Wales. But then when we announce the Irish squad after that, obviously we'll announce, and obviously a guy like Sia will be in the running if everything goes really well and is injury free and those kind of things.
That was my question.
Coach, just a question around the fact that a lot of teams were benchmarking against the Boks when they played this year.
Yeah.
Just to check where they are. How much pressure does it put on you to sort of like innovate the style of play, considering the fact that they know our strengths?
Yeah, look, luckily I don't think people can keep beating that drum, because prior to 2019 everybody said nobody gave us a chance, and then prior to 2023 everybody said now the pressure is on you. So I think we're kind of used to that kind of pressure, not that it makes anything easier, but the reality is, this is our reality. We know how hard we work and how hard we train and what we can do and what the potential of the players are, what the talent is, how we operate from within. So we can't control how motivated those guys are on that side. We can only control how focused, how ready, I guess that's one of the challenges. But it certainly makes the guys more edgy, more determined, because that's what will happen with the teams play against us. And even a team like Portugal, when I say even, it sounds like one almost want to say, obviously they're a tier 2 team, but beating Fiji is not a fluke. It doesn't happen if there is not a lot of good players in that team. And knowing my Portuguese friends in Bloemfontein, there'll be a lot of support there for them.
Coach, just to take us through the new relationships that you've had to build within your own coaching staff, Tony Brown there. What are they bringing to the party that's different? How is it going to change the approach, and has it already changed the approach of you guys coaching and the way you guys are possibly going to play?
Yeah, it's interesting when people ask us about chasing the sun too, are we giving too much away? Are we not giving too much away? Are we giving too much access or not? I think if you go and watch Chasing the Sun, you must know all the things that you showed there will definitely change. And the things that we didn't show will probably stay the same. No, I know Tony for a really long time. I coached him at the Stormers. I know he's the kind of guy and he did slot in really quickly. He played for the Sharks and for the Stormers. He knows South Africa. He knows how we think. And yes, you all saw what a guy like Felix did. And I mean, Felix, when I went to Munster, went straight from breaking his neck to being my assistant coach at Munster. I picked him. It was his first coaching gig. And when you see what a guy like that has, he's now got 2 World Cup titles. Now, Tony has experience that not a lot of guys have. And in a country, or in Japan obviously, but also in New Zealand, who was probably who's still one of the top ranked teams consistently. So he brings a lot of excitement, knowledge, and I think definitely opened some of our backline players' eyes and opportunities and utilizing opportunities. And then Jerry, again, I coach with him and Felix at Munster. You know, he's a typical like Felix are. Hours and hours behind the computer, just like Jacques were, very much the same mold. But again, one or two things that's exciting about what he can bring to our defense system. The challenge is always how quickly can we bring all of those things together to work in a big test match. But very excited about those two. Also, Perry was the other analyst in France who helped us out. Now he'll be with us from next week. He definitely also bring another dimension with Lindsay, who is our current analyst. And then Jacob Paper. I think having Papes there for every training session, every scrum session, any line-out session, we're almost used to having a referee here who's last year could have still refereed the World Cup final. So I think the new people in the management team is definitely contributing in the way we wanted to.
Rassie, I know you weren't selecting for a tournament like you were for the World Cup.
Yeah.
You took one recognized fly to the World Cup and you got 5 in this squad. What's the thinking behind having that many? That's the first part. And then the second part is, was someone like Sia Masuku as much of a sort of ball from the blue as it seemed to be for most of the rugby public?
Yeah, look, to the World Cup, you want to go and win the tournament. That's why, we can go with 2 and hopefully Andre gets ready, and we always know there will be injury. I've never been to a World Cup where there hasn't been injury, and we always said if there was an injury apart from the front row, and by that I included the hooker, but then unfortunately Malcolm got injured, but we needed Andre in that World Cup. A tournament like that, you're there. It doesn't help you have 5 fly-offs there. Of course, only 3 can really play. You can only have 3 in a match day 23, where you can have a lot of 9s because it makes training more effective, and it's more effective for and productive your training sessions. Now, building towards 2027, we still have the luxury of have Andre here. Gaza is injured, Damien is injured. But now, certainly now's the time to get the youngsters in. I know Sia's not that young, but Jordan and the other guys who's involved. That's why they are pulled in now, because in a World Cup year, it just doesn't make sense to try a few fly-offs then if you can try them now in the next 2-3 years.
Rassie, this Welsh test is obviously, because it falls out the international window, very difficult in terms of logistics, player availability with our big European contingent, Bulls still being in the URC. But is it still a really nice experience for you guys? And is it something that you'll look to keep doing in the future? Maybe having one outside of the window where you can have more of the youngsters and more of a very core South African group involved, and at a neutral venue, against other teams. Is it something you guys quite enjoy?
Yeah, we do. Look, at the end of the day, when the result is out, it was a test match. And like we won't have a couple of our players available for this match, I think the World also has 6 or 7 players that won't be available that plays in the Premiership. So, yes, sometimes you get to this 2 weeks out from this test match and you think maybe the Stormers go through and the Lions go through and the Bulls go through, and then you said, well, we'll have a squad for that. But then when you start dotting down the names, we just see that the depth that we do have in South Africa. There's really a couple of players who could have been here, and so we like this test match. It's a full-on test match. But even if the Stormers and the Bulls and the Lions were out, I think we still would have been able to put 25 or 28 players on that plane, because some players are just not picked because we can't train with 40 players. But they're really, really good, and they're one injury away or one good performance away from making the squad.
Guys, we've got 5 minutes left, so if there's Afrikaans, we need to get it in now. If there isn't, then Steen, you can fire away. Afrikaans, we've got 5 minutes left. If you need Afrikaans, get it now, please, guys.
Rassie, just in Afrikaans, your sort of objectives for the upcoming testing as well? So what do you want to see?
Afrikaans, ja. Nee, ons wil graag wen. Natuurlijk elke keer is ons wil momentum bou. Ek dink waar Jackie span laas jaar opgehou het met die wêreldbeker, ek dink wat was hy 1 verloor of 2 verlore. So ek dink ons is op 'n goeie plek, maar altyd na 'n wêreldbeker wil ou dat volgende jaar ons wil soort van 'n kickstart hê, 'n runstart hê en ons het dit nie gehad in 2020 nie met COVID. En hierdie jaar hoop ons regtig dat ons game kan develop, want in 2021 was die Leeu's hier so en toe sit weer cutthroat, jy moet die Leeu's toetreek wen, so bly maar baie binne jou boksie en try doen wat werk vir jou en wat jy weet wat werk vir jou. So ons sal graag klein goedjies wat ons dink ons kan beter doen en dan is daar 'n paar groot veranderinge wat ons ook wil maak. So hopelik die alignment kampe wat ons gehad het en die fisiese kamp nou in die toetsweek volgende week, sien ons van die goed wat ons regtig hard aan gewerk het deurkom en sien ons van die nuwe spelers en die ou spelers hoe vinnig hulle daarbey kan aanpas en ook hulle eie X-faktor of wat hulle ook al gekies het op kan wys in die toetsie en alles.
Rassie, hoe groot terugslag is dit om die op die eerste toetsreeks vir Currie te verloor en dalk in die eerste toets nie vir Jason Colby te kan kies nie?
Maar Kane en Moody is ook nog daar so as jy hom wil tel en ek dink as jy weer aan die ander kant toe kyk en jy sê jy's like maar hier is maar Pimpie, you know. En as ek sien hoe Ed wil oefen en jy dink jy's like Fassie kan ook nog vir jou wing speel en jy sien maar Jessie dalk baie vir ons wing gespeel, dan maak dit jou so half gerus want ek dink ons kon in 'n erger posisie gewees het om in dieselfde posisie beserings te kry nie, maar ons is nog steeds okay. En dit laat ons half gerus voel as ou kyk na 2025, 26 en 27. So natuurlik is daar nog 2 seer kry, dan sal ou ander planne moet maak en selfs nou van die junior bokke moet kry wat regtig hulle hand opsteek. En dan is daar 'n paar manne wat wel so ongelukkig was om nie ingetrek te word nie. So dis hoekom ek sê ek dink ons diepte is regtig goed. En weet as jy Boel Saterdag teen Leinster perform, wie ook al vir hulle wing speel en wie ook al vir hulle fullback speel en dan beteken dit daar's iets regs daarso. Dan kan ons daai manne ook kyk. So aan die een kant bietjie nervous, maar aan die ander kant so 'n halwe gerusheid vir die volgende stretch, as ek dit so kan.
Sorry, yeah. I hate to be the one to point it out, but you and Jacques are in the same city at the same time. Has there been a quiet conversation about maybe what he may or may not have learned in Ireland?
No, I will never do that to him. We are planning to try and with the whole coaching team and our coaching team. It's not a, how can I say, they're playing against the Bulls, you know. So we'll try and catch up and have supper or BO2. But that will purely be to catch up, you know. He's with his coaches and we with our coaches and he's coaching Leinster now. And, you know, there will never be in our lives taking a chance like that, him losing the trust that the Leinster guys have in him. We will never put him in that position. And the same, the other side around. But, yeah, always a close friend, for sure.
Was het dus in Afrikaans op die kapteinskap voor Wallis en voor Ierland?
Ja, die kapteinskap teen Wallis, ons sal seker Sondag intern, wat dit sal iemand soos Bongie of Pieter Steff of Ewen wees. Weer eens, ons kyk maar net hoe gaan vandag se oefening nou goed gaan, niks beserings gekry nie. As môre se oefening goed gaan, niks beserings nie, dan kan ons Sondag aankondig, ja, intern, maar dit sal seker Bongie of Pieter Steff of Ewen wees, een van daai 3. Partykeer sien ou so toets ook as 'n geleentheid om die obvious ene seker Ewen of omdat Bongie en Malcolm miskien helfte gaan speel. Maar ander kere is ou Pieter Steff 'n game soos dit ook gee hom weer 'n nuwe experience, iets wat hy vorentoe kan dra en vorentoe kan uitkom in sy game, want ek dink hy's amper nou die ultimate sewe flank wat jy wil hê in die span en as jy miskien
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between Two Fans. And some breaking news: Dan Scott has officially left the podcast for this week. In case you're looking at why he's looking a little bit better shaved, and In fact, I think you're actually the same age, to be fair. So it's a nice replacement to have. Mr. Alistair Block, how are you?
No, I'm good, Stevie. It's a pleasure to be on the show today, bro. Thanks for the invite. I'm glad that Dan's busy gallivanting there in Italy, giving me a chance to show him how to actually make some predictions. So, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who expect to see Mr. Dan Scholz, he is currently in Sicily. It's a tough life out there, and he's experiencing some genuine third world problems in his first world country with the lack of Wi-Fi. And as such, we've had to bring in the big guns. So we do have Mr. Alistair Block, who, for a bit of background, is an Arsenal supporter for his sins, is a Shark supporter for his sins, and even more so for his sins is also a Springbok, a Proteas supporter, and then Springbok supporters. That's where we really sort of we get one back. That keeps us sane. Right,
yeah,
so
I think but the Sharks, but Arsenal, you guys are missing some quality on the show, of some support.
Well, at least the Sharks coming in with a trophy. I suppose it's about the only thing that they contribute towards the season so far. But before we get stuck in, we'll update the listeners on the predictions. So every week, myself and Dan make predictions, and we've got a running total. And we have said the first one to get to 15, we'll have to do a episode of podcast in a rival jersey. So, for example, Dan in like United jersey, Stephen in Arsenal or Liverpool jersey, and the likes. The score was about at one stage, Steve had a massive lead. Dan has been clawing it back slowly but steadily. It was 9-8 coming into this episode. So let's just go through that before we then chat about a bit of rugby. So we had three predictions last week. It was Northampton versus Bath, Glasgow versus Stormers, and the Proteas versus the Netherlands. First up was Northampton versus Bath. I said Bath by 5. Dan went Saints by 3. Bath losing that 25 points, 21. So Saints claiming the English Premiership. They were the best side all season, so very deserved. So Dan does take that one. I was really hoping to see Finn Russell clutch up. That red card, potentially a bit of a game changer. So Dan gets 1 there. But Glasgow versus Stormers, I said Glasgow by 6. Dan said Stormers by 3. He went with his heart, and it was a poor decision. They ended up losing by 17. So I grab a big dub there by virtue of going with my Glasgow. And then we went Proteas versus Netherlands, and Steve says by 30 runs or 5 wickets. Dan said 40 runs or 7 wickets. It was a 4-wicket victory by the Proteas. So Steve has stemmed the flow, taken a 10 points to 8 lead, and Dan's going to have no say about what happens next week as well, because he has a proxy in the form of Alistair, who will be holding those predictions at the end of the show. So I'll no pressure, because Dan was making a nice comeback, but I don't know, 11-8 suddenly becomes a bit ominous. So I hope you're ready for it.
No. Not to worry, Dan. I got you. I want to see Steve in an Arsenal shirt as much as you do on this show. So this week's predictions, I got you down, my boy. Don't stress.
I think my biggest worry is more the fact of trying to find an Arsenal shirt that might actually fit me. It can be very sort of tight shirts out here, which I don't think is what the viewers want to see. That might have to be a genuine podcast episode. But let's get into some ruggers, because we had the URC quarterfinals last week. And we'll go through the games here. Munster beating Ospreys 23 points to 7. Bulls winning 30 points to 23 against Benetton. Leinster beating Ulster 43 points to 20. The only sort of real blowout win there. And Glasgow beating Stormers 27 points to 10. Before we get stuck on some of the individual ones, a fair reflection, I suppose, of the table, in that all the home sides won, and the top 4 are indeed our top 4. So do you think we genuinely now have our top 4 best sides in the URC in the semi-finals this weekend?
Well, the Sharks aren't there, so no, I'm kidding. The Sharks were awful this season. But, looking at it, Steve, I think so. I'm disappointed not to see Stormers there, given that in the past few seasons they've been winning their quarterfinals, getting to the semis, getting to the finals, even winning the whole thing. First time the South African teams were there. But Glasgow this season, particularly towards the latter half, have just been immense, and they deserve to be there, top 4, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think let's sort of stuck into some of the individual games there. So Bulls versus Benetton, I think, is one I want to talk about because of the Bulls, who have been running in tries for fun and looked really good, struggled a little bit in this game, which I think sort of shows you how play of rugby can be quite predictable. I think generally, if they were away, I think Benetton could have done the job. But what do you sort of put that down to? Do you think a bit of nerves for the Bulls? I mean, obviously missing a couple of key players in the likes of no Kane Moody, no Kurt Lawrence, who's injured last week and stuff. But it looked nervy from the Bulls. What do you reckon was the cause of that?
Yeah, look, you can never ride off Benetton, Steve. Those guys have been pretty immense the whole season. Particularly at home, away they've been strong as well. I mean, look, they did themselves, I don't want to say a disservice by beating the Sharks, because obviously that got them into the quarterfinals, but that win away at the Sharks was really good. Bulls themselves, you never know. Like you say, playoff rugby, it's intense, it's unpredictable. Can't say that the Benetton team wasn't used to the heat from what Dan's Instagram stories are saying. It's looking quite hot and nice there in Italy. So, yeah, I think it's also just could be a thing of Bulls perhaps underestimating their opponents. Italian team coming over, a bit of jet lag. Well, I don't know if jet lag's the right term, but certainly being tired from all the travel they've done in the past few weeks could have been a factor. But, yeah, it was nervy for the Bulls there, but they got the job done. Only South African team left, and I hate to say it, but I'm backing them all the way.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the Bulls, for me, this season, they've scored a lot of points, but their defense has been a bit leaky, and they're playing against Leinster this weekend, which is a side that scores points for fun, really. I mean, putting 40 points past Ulster in a playoff game. Maybe also a little bit leaky in the fact that they can see a 20, but yeah, I think going into this game before we sort of talk about Glasgow and Munster, do you think is it safe to say that'll be the difference? If the Bulls are to pull off the spectacular and knock Leinster out, they're going to have to sort the defence out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't think it helped them losing Currie in, was it like the 29th minute or so, and he had already scored 2 tries at that point. And Currie is immense on defence, Steve. People think, he's a small guy, but he brings Oaks down. Leaky defense could be an issue for them. But, yeah, look, the Bulls' attacking threat we've seen throughout the season has been wild. Even though they're shipping like 23 against Benetton in the quarterfinal, and I think a couple of weeks before that they shipped 35 against them at home in the league stages, the group stages rather. But then they went on to put 56 on Benetton in that game, put 40 on Glasgow, 61 on Ospreys, 40 on Stormers. Their attack is excuse me, it's really effective. But against a team like Leinster, however, or Ireland, that's effectively who they're playing, that leaky defense might really be a problem, particularly if they play the way they did against Benetton. Leinster won't be so forgiving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think both teams as well. I think it's going to be. It could potentially be a high scoring game. Considering that there were 50 points at Loftus last week, there were 60 points plus in Dublin. So potentially a high scoring game, which could create a bit of a thriller. I suppose both teams will be backing themselves to score some points. Glasgow beating Stormers. Before we talk about their chances against Munster, let's just talk about the Stormers a little bit about a disappointing performance. Mon Liebach boot not quite on song. The Stormers sort of maybe not quite where they needed to be. The Stormers have had a lot of success in playoffs in the last few years. They've had back-to-back finals, but that home advantage has always been such a big thing. Do you think you put it down to that sort of a way, the 4G pitch, the conditions, stuff like that? Are Stormers, is it unfair to call them sort of home bullies?
I don't know if it's unfair to call them that. You and Scotty spoke about it last week. Stormers away, their travel form has been shocking. I think the only South African team that actually travelled really well was the Lions, who unfortunately couldn't continue to show that travel away form, getting pipped to 8th place by the Ospreys of all people. But
yeah, not happy.
Yeah, no, I understand. But Stormers away on a 4G pitch. South African teams on a 4G pitch, always looking a little bit dicey. Glasgow really turned up. It was a bit of an interesting first half, that quite low scoring until 60th minute when Concilier and Fencer got over the line. It was looking really close, but ultimately that Stormers away form just showed in the quarterfinal. They weren't up for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, a word about Martin Liebach, for example, it's always such a tricky one to talk about, but, he missed borderline everything last week. I think he basically did miss everything. A difficult conversation to have, but, do you think this is something that the Stormers need to now start basically embracing and almost sort of saying, listen, we know that his goal kicking is very inconsistent, that he has his days and he can have his off days. Do you think this is something they need to, looking ahead, even maybe in a Springbok point of view, that you've got to look at, if he plays, you have to have a potential second goal kicking option? And, how do you think you negotiate that?
Well, from a Springbok point of view, we saw the door. Sia Masuku's in, and
does Hanjay Pollard know about this? Yeah.
Yeah, look, for the Stormers, it's dicey. Me not being a Stormers fan, I'm not actually sure what other goal kicking options they have. And look, I don't want to be a Mani hater. I love the guy. He has made clutch kicks for the Stormers in playoff games before. He's won them a URC title. If we're talking purely kicking, it's different because you can't judge Mani solely on his kicking. His infield play is just crazy, which is why it's difficult to consider him only as a kicker. But when it gets to those clutch moments in the playoff game and Mani's not on song, you are going to need a backup kicker to make those clutch kicks. And for the Stormers, I'm not quite sure who's going to step up and do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I suppose, Damian Willems, can be an option when he plays, but he's also, not been known for his goal kicking. When Sasha Femi-Ngomazulu is playing, he's got a very good percentage. Apparently, he had a bit of a niggle this last weekend, which prevented him from taking it. But I think it is a genuine bit of a problem for the Stormers because when he's on song, as you say, what he does in the sort of the general field is untouchable. But he did leave out about 15, 16 points last week, which does change the entire sort of complexion of the game. Now, Glasgow Warriors, though. They're my second side when it comes to the URC. Love watching them play. They're up against the current champions. Are we giving them a chance this weekend?
Glasgow against Munster. Look, I'd love to see them do it, but I just can't see them getting it done. Munster are too strong. They're going to get the job done.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, shorten.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but look, their last game that they played at Munster, they lost 40 points to 29. And last season's quarterfinal was also against Munster at home. They lost 14 points to 5. I know it's a whole season ago, but Munster have experience at this level in the tournaments. Glasgow, not so much. Am I not wrong in saying that this would be the first Scottish team ever to reach a final if they do? Which just shows that they don't have, well, I'm not sure if they don't have the BMT, but they don't have the experience at this level that Munster do, particularly at Thomond Park, where they've been crazy good.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. I think Munster, you got big band players in Munster. Jack Crowley's becoming a world class fly half. You've got your Peter O'Mahony's, your Ty Burns, your Ochis Neymans, for example. Simon Zebo, somebody's been playing really well in the last couple of games. So yeah, I do think it's those big players you can stand up, but. From a South African perspective, it is a Carl Steyn captained Glasgow Warriors. So, we want them to succeed. We want to see our the product that we produce. Actually, in Gauteng, so captaining the Glasgow Warriors, coached by South Africans as well, Franco Smith, plenty of South Africans there. So I'll definitely be rooting for Glasgow Warriors. It would also mean that should Glasgow Warriors beat Munster and Bulls manage to beat Leinster, it will be a Bulls home final. Where that final might take place, we still sort of remaining to be seen because there could be issues with inaugurations and the likes.
Interesting chat that,
Yeah, so you can see Orlando Stadium, for example, an F&B Stadium, an Ellis Park.
Well, Bulls have won Super Rugby at Orlando Stadium, so there's history there.
There's history there. Take it back to Soweto. I'll be interested to see how many. If they were to go to, for example, an F&B Stadium, I'd love to know how many tickets they could potentially sell. Could they put 50,000 people in that stadium for a URC final? The issue, of course, would be it's the same day as the Springbok game, so timing would be everything. The Springboks do play Wales next week.
Yeah.
Right, so in terms of just a bit of an update, as mentioned, Northampton Saints beating Bath. So Ben Obana got a red card, which I think had a big impact on the game. But the nice news, for example, is Courtney Laws is send off. GOAT player really for England and for Northampton. I mean, I think probably one of the ultimate players, isn't he? Just in terms of unassuming, very quiet, gets to his work. But I think it's something like, he's never received like something ridiculous about sort of his high tackle stats. Like how many tackles he's made and never like been penalised for a high tackle or something. He's just one of the ultimates, isn't it? When you talk about players who are sort of, you don't maybe are always in the headlines, but just you never really see them have a bad game. Courtney Laws is definitely one of those.
Yeah, look, I've always enjoyed watching him. Sticking to the rules and just like some other stats that he's had there at Northampton. He's played 282 games across 17 seasons for one club. That's talk about a one-club man and a dream send-off for the guy. That's crazy to win I think it's only his second title. To do that in his last season, it's just it's a fever dream. Congrats to him.
And deserved. And he's going to a Pro D2 side next season, so very much going to a project team, the same side that has signed Cohen Bosch, which is going to be interesting to see what Breve do next season. Obviously, big ambition there down in the Pro D2 to be signing sort of players of that kind of caliber. Then looking ahead, just before we talk about the big rugby news, Super Rugby semi-finals this weekend. We've got the Blues up against the Brumbies on Friday, tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We've got Hurricanes versus Chiefs at 6:30 on Saturday. So, Al, are you keeping an eye on the Super Rugby? Have you been keeping an eye on the Super Rugby? Do we have any sort of favourites to what we were hoping to see this weekend?
Yeah, look, I've been keeping an eye on the results happening. I haven't been watching much of the rugby except when, Moana Pacifica and Fiji Drua are playing because those guys, they just bring the flair, Steve. I enjoy watching them. Particularly when they're playing in Fiji as well. The fans, those guys are crazy. And look, credit must be given to Fiji and Drua as well. These guys put in a big shift in their play. It's only, I think, their third season in Super Rugby, finishing 11th in their first season and now 7th 2 seasons in a row, making the quarterfinals. Of course, they got pretty pumped by the Blues. But making it to the playoffs, it's impressive. They play some attractive rugby when it works. It's true Fijian flair. No, I love it. But other than that, I've not been watching much Super Rugby since we left. I think the quality of Super Rugby seriously deteriorated, with the South African quality there. But interesting tournament nonetheless. Should we go through these results here, Steve?
Yeah, so last weekend, Chiefs beating Reds 43 points to 21. Very much sort of setting the standards. Hurricanes hammering Rebels 47 points to 20. Blues beating Fiji and Drua 35 points to 5. And then Brumbies beating the Highlanders 32 points to 16. So Brumbies very much the Australian hopes and dreams of rugby. And it's been an interesting week for Australian rugby because the Melbourne Rebels have officially gone under. They will no longer be involved. Always a bit of a weird kind of franchise, but obviously massive for Melbourne to lose the rugby. But also massive news is Carter Gordon has made the switch to NRL, following the likes of Anita Wase. Not all things not well in Australian rugby, eh?
Yeah, look, no, this whole Melbourne Rebels fiasco is ridiculous, Steve. That's Australian rugby. They rejected a business rescue deal for rescuing the Rebels from a wealthy consortium. From what I've seen. And given where Australian rugby are right now, they need their best players to continue playing rugby union. The Wallabies are in an absolute shambles at the moment, losing the likes of Carter Gordon and Mark, whatever the man's surname is. Don't ask me to pronounce it.
Now, what do you to what I say? It just takes a couple of practices.
Losing them to league is really not good for Australian rugby. And that's a whole franchise down the drain. It's a sad thing as well, given that the Rebels was their first time ever in a playoff game in their 11, 12-year history. They made it to the quarterfinals for the first time, and now all of a sudden, Rugby Australia just like, cheers, Oaks, you're gone. Sorry.
First and last.
Yeah. Shame. No, it's a shame. I'm not happy with it.
Yeah, it's so tight. I mean, you got a British and Irish Lions series next year. You got a World Cup in 2 years' time. This was supposed to be the regen of Australian rugby, and unfortunately, with the administration issues, that's been under a lot of pressure. A lot of people have called them out. But you talk about two players who were supposed to be part of the spine Australian rugby for many years to come. You know, Noah Alessio, Carter Gordon, I mean, they were going to be fighting out for 10 the next few years. You know, Mark Nawangui-Tawasi, I mean, I watched him at the World Cup. He's a special player. So to be losing those kind of players is everything you can't afford to do. And I think it kind of shows you exactly how Australian rugby is in such a precarious position where if they don't get the right decisions and they don't start making the big decisions, then I think, you know, the Wallabies are going to be down to almost a tier 2 nation in a few years' time if they don't be careful, which is sad to see because, you know, from a Sweden perspective, we want to play against a decent Australian side. They've got so much history. They've won a World Cup. You know,
absolutely, yeah. You don't want to see Australian just going down the drain. We can't speak too early because obviously they are hosting the World Cup in 2027, 2.5 years from now. But you know, it would just be a damn shame to see them hosting a World Cup and crashing out in the group stages or just being, you know, non-competitive at all. Like you said, I really enjoy seeing a competitive Australia in the Rugby Championship. It can't just be us and New Zealand as the only powerhouses in the South. You know, we've been carrying the South for too long now. It's time for Australia to really pick their socks up. And it's not happening. Rebels going under, results not going Australia's way on the field when they do play, on and off the field, really. It's a shame to see, Steve.
Yeah, right. Well, whilst the Wallabies disintegrate, the Springboks are growing, and we have our first ever Springbok, first Springbok squad of the year, and lots of big decisions with 12 uncapped players, in fact, in the squad. So it was announced on Monday. If you have not seen the full squad, you can go check out a couple of the updates on the Ferris Sports channel. But in terms of the big names, some uncapped players, the likes of Netley Bashir, Ben Jason Dixon, Pepsi Buthelezi, all the uncapped forwards, as well as Peter Gomedi, who's been added to the side as well later. And then if you look at the backline players, Morne van den Berg, Ethan Hooker, Jordan Hendricks, Sia Masuku, Edward van der Merwe, Sasha Feinberg, Gomazulu, as well as Kwan Horn, all added there. 100 Pod, Jasper Wiese currently with the squad, but unavailable for Wales. I mean, you mentioned Sia Masuku earlier, but there's some exciting players in the uncapped players that
those names you just read, they excite me, Steve. It's insane. These are uncapped Springbok players. You've got 12 of them there. And they've all got bright futures. The likes of, Pepsi's been knocking on the door for a while. Ben Jason Dixon, I have no clue who this oak was before the season started. Now you check him playing. There at the Stormers, he's been absolutely killing it. Kieran Horn for the Lions. I don't want to say he's been the spine of their attack, but when you give that man the ball in space, you can almost expect a try between him and Nohamba, which I'm quite sad to see is not here, to be honest, Steve. I really think he deserves a spot. But the Oaks that have been called up, Bilo Gumede, Edward van der Merwe, Netley Bashir, Andre Hugo Fenter excites me as well, Steve. It's really, our squad depth for the book is looking really, really good. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think this is just the initial squad that's particularly for the Wales series, right? Because I really would like to see the addition of the likes of Tyrone Green and Joanna Augustus as well. But naturally, they're based in England. I'm not sure if the clubs are allowed to release them.
No. Yeah, so Regulation 9 specifies that they cannot be released outside the window. So that's why, for example, Jasper Wiese and Honjapad have been allowed to train, but they cannot play. Andre Esterhuizen can play because whilst he is still under contract at the Harlequins, he's obviously making the move to Sharks next season. So they've basically said, we don't really care. Go forth and play. It doesn't affect us. You're not going to play for the Harlequins again. So whether Tyrone Green and Joanna Augustus, for example, are on the radar, we'll wait and see, but there will be another squad announcement after that Wales test. So this is purely just for next week, basically. By the way, the team will be announced on Tuesday before the squad leaves on Wednesday to play at Twickenham on Saturday against Wales. All those uncapped players also... Sorry,
I'm so keen to see what that starting lineup's going to be because I can't even begin to make a prediction. And Rassi is always cooking, you know that.
He's always got something to sleep. But which of those uncapped players would you like to see in that 23?
Look, my biasness is going to come out here. I want to see Pepsi and Sia in the starting 15. But truthfully, Steve, especially now that we've got injuries to Curtly Arens, Chesley Colby's looking a bit shaky as well. I've heard he's back in the camp with the Boks.
Back in the camp, has not been cleared yet. But won't face Wales, but in a race against time for Ireland.
Yeah, but it does open the door for the likes of Edward van der Merwe to play against Wales. And he's a speedster. He's fantastic on attack. I'd like to see Kieran Horn in there as well, given that, Damien Phillips is out. Give him a shot at fullback, why not? And also, we need to see the likes of Sasha Fenberg and Gomezulu. We need to give him that Springbok cap just so we can tell England, hey, go away, you can't have him, he's ours.
Yeah, nice try, not happening.
Exactly. Which is also the same thing I wanted to see with the likes of Atira and Green. Fuller what Chelsea have been doing for years in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Sign all the oaks in the world just so no one else can have them. We must do that.
Just cap them. And if they don't play, they don't
Absolutely.
play. Cap them.
Yeah.
Just be spiteful,
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but so we'll see that team named on Tuesday. Very excited to see. I think also obviously the big names like Malcolm Marks back in it. Sam Murat called back into that squad. He is capped, but the likes of a Ntuka Unu, for example, also back in the squad. So a couple of players who are capped but haven't played a lot of rugby at Springbok level, also including the squad. So expect to be a bit of a chase. Apelele Fassi, for example, is capped but back in the squad. The other good news before we sort of move on to a bit of football is that the Currie Cup, by the way, if you have not seen, will go ahead. There is a new deal that has been put in place about the sort of the player welfare resting, and the core basics are as follows. It is a structured, individualized 8-week rest periods for all players with formal notice periods when such breaks are to be taken. There's an adoption of World Rugby player load guidelines, which are in finalization, a maintenance of a strict individual player load monitoring program, a broadened scope for the Joint Committee on Contracted Player Safety and Welfare, and utilization of the Emergency Committee to ensure effective implementation of the new arrangements, and adjusted travel arrangements for Vodacom URC EPCR teams from the 1st of July 2025. So we won't be seeing those sort of long haul flights. But for me, this makes sense. I think it was when I was looking at the initial issues, and you're thinking that we can't have a Currie Cup because basically they're all saying that all the players have to rest at the same time. Seems a bit rudimentary. These are professional athletes; they do need to rest, stuff like that. But why can we not say, all right, cool? You've had a bit of an injury. You come back. You start playing in January. You can keep playing for another 2 weeks, two months in the Currie Cup, and then we will give you, October, November. We'll give you 6 weeks off here and 2 weeks off here. In terms of they have to be 8-week rest periods, whether they're all going to be officially taken all the time. I mean, don't you think it's just a bit? It seemed like it was just a bit. Basic to sit there and say, cool, well, they just have to all rest at the same time, where, it should be so much more fluid. Some players are playing 80 minutes every single week. Some players are playing 20 minutes, and you can't treat these players exactly the same.
It is a bit simplistic, Steve. They're not considering the reality of it as well. I mean, especially when there's lots of players not getting time, and something that I really would have liked to have seen at the Sharks as a Sharks fan. I mean, it's a shame that he's leaving, but Apiwe Janchi got very little game time this season for the Sharks. I would have liked to have seen them go get some confidence back in the Currie Cup team and then come back next season and kill it at the Sharks. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen, and now he's going to be scoring hella points at the Bulls. Maybe he's just a Gauteng-based good player, because he was killing it at the Lions a couple of years ago, and let's see if he can do it at the Bulls. But anyway, back to the Currie Cup, Steve. It's nice to see that they're having a focus on player welfare and load monitoring. But the way that they're approaching it with everyone resting at the same time, I think is just impractical, and it feeds into the issue that we've seen for the Currie Cup for many, many years now, is that the best players will not be playing.
Yeah.
It sucks, because back when we were kids, Steve, we would turn on the Currie Cup and you'd get Skulk Burger busy mauling for Reed Dupree, It was epic rugby, and stadiums were full. And the Currie Cup has lost that magic, and this is really not going to help everyone resting at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think the reality is we currently still do have a dual schedule, with being Northern Hemisphere for local, Southern Hemisphere for international. We're not an Ireland, for example, who will play our two-match test series, and mid-July they will not play rugby again in September. So those players who are not going to South Africa, for example, the likes of an Ulster, their season's done. Connacht, their season was done 2 weeks ago. So if you play for Connacht and you finished 2 weeks ago, you can now have your 8-week period rest, which would have started on the 2nd of June. You can then, your 8 weeks will then finish in July. By August, you are ready to get back into preseason, mid-season URC. It becomes easy. Even the internationals, for example, they'll play until the 2nd week of July. Their rest period will start, say, for example, Sunday, the 14th of July. They can have that 8 weeks and be done by about the end of August. And by the end of September, they can start playing URC again and have that 8-week rest. So it's very easy for the Northern Hemisphere side. It's very easy for your Australian New Zealanders, for example, who will play the Rugby Championship, finish in September, and you can have a full October off before in autumn internationals, and then they've got that full December, basically January off as well. So there's those gaps. We don't have those gaps, and I think it was just far too, as you said, simplistic. And I mean, if this is just logical, I don't understand why this is even became a big thing. Surely you just sit there and say, right, well, we know this is not going to work. How do we make it work? Because you can't lose the Currie Cup, but we can't have players playing 12 months every year as well.
Well, Steve, we need to consider maybe the Oaks sat down and made these rules are probably like Cheetahs or Griquas fans, because it really works well for them. If the other teams stop playing or resting and not playing, Cheetahs just absolutely kill the Currie Cup win, and Pumas as well. Can't forget them. Normally the three small teams, Griquas, Cheetahs, Pumas. I don't want to be disrespectful, of course, but the non-URC teams, when the URC teams players are not there, they just walk the Currie Cup, and it's good to see them do that. But I would like to see a level of competition and excitement with the top players playing like that back in the day when we were kids. I miss that.
Yeah, and I think also the new format, of there being two groups now, and you play everybody in your group twice before playing everybody else in the other group once. So it reduces the games from what would have been about 16 games, I think it was, or 14 games. You're going to be playing about 10 games now. So there are fewer games as well. So you are reducing the player workload. I think also reducing the length of the tournament will keep it a bit more exciting. Me and Dan have got the ongoing joke about how the IPL lasts about 4 months and you kind of just get over it. So I think having it a bit more compact makes it a bit more exciting as well, especially during Springbok season where we don't have a lot of rugby in the weekends. We can all sort of pivot around one game. So it's nice to have that. If the Boks are playing in Australia and you're playing at 7 o'clock, by 9 o'clock your rugby's finished. No, you've got Currie Cup in the afternoon. It's going to be good Currie Cup as well. So very, very cool to see that they have sorted that out. And looking forward to the Currie Cups. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Alistair, we've got some football coming up in the Euros, the European Championship. One of my favorite tournaments. There's always drama in the Euros. There's always big upsets. There's Iceland beating England. There's teams going on runs, and from a club perspective, there's always those players that, for example, pop up. Locatelli last tournament, nobody knew who he was, came through, had the phenomenal tournaments. People grab names. So that all kicks off tomorrow night. Germany versus Scotland, or tonight by the time this comes out. This will be out tomorrow morning. Germany versus Scotland. Scotland, that powerhouse nation, being led by the likes of Scott McTominay, Andy Robertson. McGinn, those GO players. Germany will be Tony Kroos's last sort of send-off. Other fixtures, however, look on Saturday. Hungary versus Switzerland. Spain versus Croatia on Saturday, 6 o'clock. That's probably the game of the weekend. Huge game. That is the one we're going to be doing our predictions for. You've then got Italy versus Albania on Saturday night. Poland versus Netherlands on Sunday. Slovenia versus Denmark. Serbia versus England. England, one of the most talented squads they've got under Southgate. She's under a lot of pressure. Romania versus Ukraine on Monday. So very, very cool games. Al, do you have a team? I mean, who do you sort of pin your colours to for the Euros?
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of family heritage based in Germany. So I've been supporting Germany my whole life just because my grandmother's German. It was really good back in 2014, but since then, not much to shout for as a German fan, Steve. But, folks are hosting the Euros this year. Who knows? Anything can happen. Look, truthfully, my money's on England. I think they are well due a major trophy, and they've been knocking on the door for a while now. But for Harry Kane's penalty miss in the World Cup and, losing the final shockingly to Italy a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and also, it's Southgate's got one more chance, I feel, and if he doesn't do anything this time, he's gone, and he knows that. So
he's always such a polarizing figure, isn't it? Because everybody talks about how negative the football is. For example, they often play three at the back. But he's gotten to a World Cup semi-final. He's gotten to a Euros final. So he's been quite close to success. So, I think it'll be amazing to see what his legacy will be, because so many people are so ready to get him out, and they say, they don't play to their ability and stuff like that. If he does win the Euros, he looks back on his tenure, and it's been a successful tenure. It's difficult one, isn't it? Because he's such a down-to-earth person, says all the right things, I think genuinely cares. He's quite a refreshing type of personality, but the football has not, represented the talent and attacking talent that England have. And I'm an England fan, having a British passport and all. And my mother was born in England, so much like you, I've got sort of family heritage there. So we are very much due. Whether we'll get there. Any sort of dark horses you reckon that are worth watching out for?
I'm not sure if you can call Croatia a dark horse anymore.
Yeah, I know. They talk some good things for you if they're a dark horse.
Yeah, you know what, Steve? Yeah, look, you can't. The France have been relatively underwhelming, but they're too big to be called a dark horse. Truthfully, Steve, I think we always need to look out for the likes of Portugal. Nobody ever really expects them to win or get far,
Ronnie,
but they can surprise
Ronnie.
you. Can never do so. I mean, every time there's a global event like the Euros or World Cup, I think surely it's his last tournament, and it never is. And he keeps coming back. He's 45 years old with the body of a 22-year-old,
And scoring goals. I think he scored 2 in the friendly the other day.
Yeah. He's a tank.
No, he is. I think other teams probably. I mean, your Austrias, for example, your Polands, Belgium, for example, have largely underperformed. They were once the number one side in the world, but have yet to really sort of show that on the national stage in terms of getting to finals. I think that there are teams. I mean, Netherlands, for example, we haven't seen the Netherlands being as strong as we probably like them to be. So, I think we've got an interesting Euros ahead. So, in terms of the sort of the scheduling for the Euros, it's also pretty short and sweet. To be fair, we've got basically 3 weeks of round robin games. First game starts on the tomorrow, the 14th of June. That final round robin game on the 26th. So it's basically almost 2 weeks on the dot. Round of 16 on the 29th. The final schedule for the 14th of July. So the entire thing wraps up in a month.
It is ideal on a Saturday and a Sunday. You got your 3 o'clock, your 6 o'clock, your 9 o'clock game. Sit down in the afternoon and just spend the rest of the day watching footy. It is it's a wonderful thing.
Your weekday, you get home for 6 o'clock game, the 9 o'clock game. It is from a fan perspective. It's so easy to watch because it's just always there. You just get home and you just put on the footy.
Yeah,
there's nothing better. Maybe that's why I actually love it so much, because it's so accessible. It's so easy to watch and to get involved in it, because the timing just works out so nicely from a staffing perspective.
That's trouble though, Steve. I reckon my Betway is in trouble here. So many games happening in such a short period of time.
We're going to see some accumulators there. So next time we see El, he's either going to be like an HD camera mic in a podcast studio, or he's going to be broadcasting out of his car for like a weird 200 rand little smartphone, trying to pay the debts there.
Yeah, correct. Most likely the latter. My bets have not been going well recently.
Well, speaking of bets and favourites and things going or not going well, South Africa, the Proteas are currently sitting top of their log. No issues, whatever. Basically, they've guaranteed their spot in the Super 8, which is the main thing. But I mean, we're seeing ridiculous cricket, aren't we? I mean, defending 113 against Bangladesh on Monday. Netherlands, chasing down 106, but in the 19th over, with David Miller, classy 59 of 51, having to get us over the line. Let's talk a little bit about first of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room, this New York pitches even, the games in the States. For a tournament which is supposed to be really promoting the game, getting Americans in, it's becoming a difficult sell, isn't it?
Well, Steve, for a proper cricket fan, I'm not so sure it's difficult to sell it to real cricket fans. To the general person in America that's used to watching baseball, I'm sure they would love to see, just hit, bash, smash, 200 runs plus. But as a genuine cricket fan, Steve, I think it's a breath of fresh air to see a pitch that offers something for the bowlers, and where low-scoring games
something I think is putting it very kindly. There's snake pits out there. There's snakes to the grass.
Yeah, look, Steve, I don't know. These low-scoring games have been absolute thrillers. The point where you're scoring 120 and it's enough, where you might not even defend 100. You score 90 and you're wondering, is it enough because of the snake pit of the level of the pitch? It's been crazy watching these second innings chases here. Like with Pakistan scoring 113, chasing 119 against India. That was a crazy game to watch. And, we've become so accustomed and conditioned to these T20 games, particularly with the 7-year IPL that's just finished, where games were going up to 260, 270 on the range. It was disgusting. Yeah. It was disgusting, the scores that were being scored there. It's quite nice to see these low-scoring thrillers again. And but now that we're back in the West Indies, I think we're going to see not quite the 200 pitches, but where 150, 160 becomes
180s, yeah. And I think that's for me. That's what I like to see. I like that 160, 170 type of game because there's still boundaries, excitement, but it's not silly. The bowlers are still in it. But so I think those 200, 220, 240, I don't find much entertainment in that. I think it just looks like a hitting show. I would like to see, for example, I think, you're watching these 112 games and you're seeing like 2 sixes in the innings if you're lucky, and the outfields have been really slow, and so there has been that which has been a bit disappointing. But speaking of disappointing, the Proteas top order have been awful, if we're being brutally honest. Reza Hendricks hasn't got past, I think, about 6 or 7. Quinton de Kock's not looked good. Aidan Markham hasn't scored any runs. Tristan Stubbs has been better, but the top 3 in serious trouble. It's a frustrating situation, isn't it? In that we've got basically a nothing game against Nepal on Saturday morning, so effectively tomorrow night. And Rob Walters basically saying he's not going to change anything. I suppose he can't. These guys have to go out and try and score some runs going into the Super 8.
Yeah, Steve, look, I'm an advocate for Reza out, Rickleton in. I love Brian Rickleton. I don't think it's possible because we have to meet quota standards, of course. And without any disrespect to Reza, look, in the past 3-4 years, he's been immense. But it appears that he's just lost a bit of form. Those games before in the West Indies as well, and now in the World Cup. Your Reza is batting just about as badly as Currie in this tournament. I never thought I'd say that. But but look, we played our first 3 games at Nassau in New York, where it was a snake bit of a pitch. I'm willing to give the opening batsman a pass for that. That was, they were playing on, we've seen school cricket played on better pitches.
Correct.
We're going to the West Indies now, where pitches have been actually, in place for years, not set in the ground 2 weeks ago before the World Cup started. Shipped in from some dodgy Australian on a DHL plane, So real cricket's going to start now. See, we've won 3 out of 3. Sure, they were dodgy, not great to watch, but the win is what matters. We're in the Super 8, and we're going to take it from here. I back the top order. There's too much quality there to not succeed.
Yeah, I think that's the big point. Quinton de Kock and Aidan Markham, these are world class players. Reza Hendricks was averaging 50 for a long time in T20 cricket for that 2-year stint. So, they will come. And they always say, when it comes to good players, a good score's around the corner, and I think that is the case for those guys. But we could be seeing an absolutely mental Super 8. Currently, we've got USA sitting on 4 points ahead of Pakistan, with USA. I think we've got 2 more games to go. Pakistan, 1 more game to go. So we could potentially be seeing Pakistan going out. USA progressing. What a ridiculous result that would be when they beat Pakistan.
I'd love to see it.
So incredible if they were to go through. You've got England who are all but out. Scotland potentially going through.
That situation is, I love it, because England have to play, I think it's Oman. And who's the other team? Namibia. Yeah, Oman and Namibia before the Australia versus Scotland game. So when it gets down to it, England may have the same amount of points as Scotland, and then it comes down to net run rate. And Australia and Scotland would know the exact score that they need to knock in out and to score it in how many overs. And look, it will invite chats of match fixing, whether it's happened or not. I'm sure you've heard the chats of Josh Hazelwood the other day. Slightly concerned, but I'm sure England fans are busy, cucking their pants a little bit right now. The chances of getting knocked out are quite high. And that Scotland team's quality, Steve. They're no slouches, eh?
No. And this is the thing with T20 cricket as well. It's amazing how bad Ireland have been, for example. They're going to finish last in the group that features USA and Canada. But this is the thing with T20 cricket, is that there's cameos, that one player that one day it's such a short format that you need 2 players to come off on the day, and you could be on your way home. It is. Test cricket, for example, in Ireland will hammer a USA and Canada every day of the week. USA are never beating Pakistan in a 5-day test, but they beat them in a T20. So it is that which gives the bit of a magic of the T20, and that it invites the upset, and that is the beauty of it. In terms of early favourites, Australia looking very strong. Probably the team to beat. Australia in tournaments like these, they're just. And I mean, this is with our players like Fraser McGurk continue to make the flipping squad. They're just a well-oiled machine, aren't they?
No, look, they're crazy good, Steve. Since the introduction of the World Test Championship, they're looking likely to be the first team to hold every trophy in world cricket, being the Championship, 50th World Cup, and if they win this T20 World Cup too. I think they are going to go on and do it, and they would deserve to. Australia, for the past few years, have just been immense. They win when it matters, and they win well. They under the captaincy of Pat Cummins for the past couple of years. I mean, I know that Marsh is the captain for the T20 tournament, but I kind of don't like seeing it. But Australia have almost turned into nice guys under the captaincy of Cummins.
I've been saying that. We need to get rid of Cummins and make it somebody, like bring back David Warner, make him captain. Like, let me hate Australia again.
But look, Australia are very strong. The only team I can really see truthfully challenge them is India. But India and ICC tournaments just do not compute. Very similar to the Proteas. But let's see how it goes. T20 cricket's volatile. Anything can happen.
Yeah, correct. Right, yeah. So in terms of just what's happening with the T20 World Cup, the Proteas will play their final game, as I mentioned, on Saturday morning. It is 1:30 in the morning, so if you're a dedicated fan, you'll be up there. But the next couple of games, you've got the USA taking on Ireland. That starts as tomorrow, Afghanistan versus Papua New Guinea. But all these games will wrap up on the last group stage on the 18th of June. So next week, Tuesday, before the Super 8 will start on Wednesday. The Proteas will be playing. We're still waiting to see who will be playing, but we are through, so we have already confirmed that. So some of the Super 8 fixtures are already confirmed, by the way. This is also predetermined with regards to who's going to be playing who and stuff like that. So West Indies versus South Africa, for example, is already confirmed for Monday, the 24th of June. Australia versus India. So that's all that's slowly filling up, but that'll start the 20th of June, and then the semi-finals will be on the 27th and both on the 27th before the final on the 29th of June. Exciting times over there. Right, Al, let's get into some predictions, shall we? You are Desta Daniel Scholes' proxy. Stephen is currently leading 10 points to 8. This is a big weekend. We've got 2 rugby games and we've got a footy game to predict. We're going to start with Sharks versus Leinster. Bulls versus Leinster, as if you guys were there.
Sharks versus Leinster, I wish.
Yeah. So basically how it works here, so you've heard it. So basically we're going to count 3, 2, 1, and we're going to go team by how many points?
All right.
So do you have a score in mind?
I do.
All right, cool. So I'll count us in. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, Leinster by 15.
Bulls by 8.
Yeah, he's gone there. Dan's gonna be sitting there like crying, fuming. Massive call.
I'm backing the Bulls. They're gonna do it. Bulls by 8.
Yeah, I just think that Leinster at the moment have got such a big point to prove. I think missing Currie and Mark van Staden and
look, I mean, they don't want to be a team. They don't want to, after choking the Champions Cup, not having won a trophy since 2019 or something like that. They're going to be pushing. But still, Bulls at home, Loftus faithful. That Pretoria sun is what, Steve? Leinster going to struggle.
It is. Well, I mean, I was there today, and it is still warm in the sun. It's not as warm as it was a month ago, but it is still one. The altitude still is a factor. Right, Munster versus Glasgow. Do you have a score in mind?
Yeah, I've got a score in mind.
All right, let's go. So 3, 2, 1. Munster by 4.
Munster by 12.
By 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So backing a big one there from Munster. Steve, I've got a bit more conservative. Okay, well, we've got nice difference here. Me and Dan obviously tend to go quite similar there. Right, the last one is Spain versus Croatia. So obviously the football's a bit different. You go scoreline and then so 2-1, whatever, or 1-0 or whatever and stuff like that. Have you got a score in mind?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I do have a score, Steve.
Okay, well, I'll count you in. So we'll go 3, 2, 1. 1-0 Croatia.
2-1 Spain.
Okay.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay.
Now I want to see a little smash and grab there from Croatia. Right, okay, so those are our predictions locked in for this week, and that brings us to the end of the podcast. Mr. Alistair Block, it has been an absolute pleasure having you as the fan here on Between Two Fans. We will hopefully have our Italian traveller, Mr. Dan Scholz, back on next week, and he can tell us all the stories about his holiday in Sicily as if we actually care. But if you are listening, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the various streaming platforms, go and rate us, go and give us those 5 stars on Spotify and the likes, and as usual, send this to your friend, send this to your granny, as we always say, play it for your pets.
Send it to your dog. It's a good one.
Yeah, we had elections. We've got an inauguration coming here. Send it to your opposition party. Send it to Julius. Let us know that we're out here. We will take on all the support that we can get. I'll enjoy the weekend of sport.
You as well, Steve. And thanks for
everybody else. Always there. And to everybody else, we'll see you guys all next time. Again, please do follow us. Please do give us any feedback on the show as well. As always, it's Stevie P. But this time with Alistair Block. This has been Between Two Fans, and we'll see you guys all next time.
Leo, I take it you've, after all the talking about who's the actual underdog throughout the week, with both sides, I think, having a go at that status.
Race to the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you've seen their team, what's your reaction to the perceived strength of the team they've named? And then secondly, when there's 1 or 2 players you probably haven't had too much time to have a look at in terms of analysis, how does that make you feel sort of from a prep perspective?
Okay, they're a pretty settled team though, aren't they, the Bulls? They haven't changed drastically from what we would have expected. So you go on the website, it's a big squad they have, isn't it? Over 60 players, which is a lot more than what we would have. And Jake has added to the group over the season. If you think in terms of a couple of marquee guys they have brought in, Billy, LaRue and Vilka Lowe, probably those 2 in particular, that definitely add a bit of that top end experience and quality. So I think when you go through the course of the season, it's a long season, isn't it? So there has to be a lot of management that goes on to ensure that you can be firing at this end of the season. Listen, as I said, Bulls have been able to navigate their way pretty well. So, obviously they made some decisions around Champions Cup. Clearly, when you think back to the team, say that would have been set up to play against Northampton in the quarterfinals. Obviously, we played La Rochelle that weekend. And Jay clearly has his eyes set on URC. So, some of the guys, obviously, that are here today, as they're playing tomorrow, should I say, didn't travel for that game as an example. So, I think Jake has had a pretty clear intention as to what his focus is this year. So we know that they've been waiting for this day, which is a semi-final at home. So it's going to be a great challenge for our guys. Our guys know it's going to be a serious challenge. When you walk in the front door there and you turn left and you see the history wall. I love a good history wall, so I do. And listen, as somebody personally who would have watched so much of, particularly Super Rugby, and we wouldn't have seen maybe as much as the Currie Cup in our part of the world. But in terms of particularly Super Rugby, and think of some of the great Bulls teams, and a lot of our guys would have grown up with that. So that's why it's an amazing challenge for us to be here.
at this stage of competition, isn't it? Like a semi-final, whereas, you know, like it was just, we sort of would have dreamt of that, you know, if I wind the clock back 20 years. You know, so it's fantastic to be here. Amazing, iconic stadium. Serious challenge we have.
There's been so much talk about in sort of recent weeks. There's so much talk about, obviously, I think this being your first playoff game outside of home, and obviously the the unfortunate results in recent years. It almost kind of makes you guys sound like some kind of sort of mental case. But what I want to ask is how do you sort of try to manage that and just get on with the fact that you've got a game to win tomorrow?
Yeah, because this is our sixth playoff game this season, so our sixth knockout game. So we've got through a last 16 quarterfinal, semi-final of the Champions Cup. We quarterfinal last week in this competition. You know, we lose a final. You know, it's an unbelievably tight game. Toulouse are a top team, as we all know. It's on the day. You know, if you wind back the clock, you know, obviously we haven't won a trophy this season or the previous 2 seasons, but you go back the previous 4 seasons, we've won 5 trophies in those 4 seasons. So, you know, again, it depends how far you want to go back. And you know, seasons prior to that, we had a couple of seasons where we didn't win anything. Seasons prior to that, we did win some trophies prior to that. So, again, it just depends how long you want to extend out the timeline. The reality is it's very, very competitive when you get to knockout games, so you need to make sure you get lots right on the day, and that's always been our focus. So, you know, we got lots right in the Champions Cup final, but there was some things we didn't get right, and that's probably the learning for this group to make sure we're better now that we're in a playoff game again. So, you know, we've come through, as I said, the quarterfinal. You lose a final. There's the natural disappointment. We've made quite a few changes, which is the last game for us in the RDS, which is our home stadium, before there's a redevelopment that's going to take place there. So we moved to the Aviva Stadium for a quarter-final, which again, provincial game, derby game against Ulster. And obviously we've travelled here, which is a completely unique experience, but one that the group is excited by and has openly embraced the challenge. So, yeah, but it's on the day now, isn't it? So we'll see 2 good teams going at it, and there'll be lots of little subplots, you know, what's going to be like in terms of scrum battle, line-out drive battle, contact area battle, the aerial battle, who's able to retain possession best, who's able to play in the right areas of the field, who's able to put pressure on some of the various different individuals from both teams. So, and that's the game of rugby, isn't it? So, like, there's no, you know, we've all these got preconceived ideas of what we think is going to happen, but then it's, well, you've got to be able to deal with what happens on the day and what unfolds. So, yeah, the guys are prepared well. You know, obviously it's a unique challenge when you're traveling and all the rest, but it's been good for the group, I think, in terms of that time together. So, we'll see what it looks like in terms of the actual performance. But for us, listen, it's just embracing another challenge now. But where else would you rather be? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Where else would you rather be? It's great, isn't it?
Think of a couple of places.
Where would you like to? You come over to us.
So we'll go MW, Carl, RT, and finish off with Steve.
Jake's talked a lot about the travelling. You mentioned that finding tickets at the night for 45 guys to fly to South Africa, and you guys arrived here in drips and drabs and likes, and that's a challenge that we've been putting up for quite a while now, and Jake's been adamant about that. The North African game we talked about was one of those things that we really struggled to get our guys there. We were lucky that there was some flights available this almost losing to La Rochelle and ours, but how did you experience that, this travelling thing? Is it such an issue, or do you not think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup?
Yeah, like it's okay, like it's because there's the big thing is like in terms of time zones and the jet lag, so there's none of that effect. So yeah, like it's in particularly from the players' point of view, they've travelled in decent seats, and some of the staff were a bit wedged in the back, but we're all right. Yeah, like it's you know, we've seen the alternative in terms of our league, like in terms of the development of the competition. So to have the 4 big South African franchises in the competition, like it's unbelievable for us, and the interest in the game that's here. And it's we're still very early days in terms of competition, but it's definitely worth the little bit of some of the travel challenges, but it's worth the little bit of pain for what the actual reward is, which is, for us to be in a venue like this in a game of this magnitude, or vice versa, if any of the 4 South African teams are playing in a knockout game in the Northern Hemisphere. And I just think you'll see the competition grow. So listen, I think it's fantastic. I don't, it's not the easiest thing to do last minute, but the alternative, it's a lot better than the alternative, I think, because in terms of the level of the competition now, there's some unbelievable playoff games I think you've seen.
And play 16 here, the crowd that we're expecting here at Loftus, how do you expect to cope with that?
Good question. Yeah, that's the thing. We're in a way hostile environment, and we just need to embrace that. So, I think we just get excited by that challenge. So, in terms of Champions Cup in particular, you go away to particularly you think somewhere like some of the knockout games in France and what that's like, and you're used to that type of hostile crowd and the pressure that puts on teams and the lift it can give a home team. So it's something that the players have experienced plenty. A number of players obviously involved in Six Nations games and similar big stadiums, packed out, hostile environments, etc. So, but again, that's just another layer. Again, go back to the experience. Where would you want to be? Is exactly it. Playing away semi-final of a competition knockout with a team again like the Bulls that they are, the history that they have in knockout competition, Super Rugby and Currie Cup as well over the years. So there's a real sort of feeling of privilege for us to be here, and I suppose with that comes a lot of excitement, and there's the anticipation and a bit of the nervous energy that we have, and we're respectful of the history that's here, but it's making sure that we go out and perform and do ourselves justice, and all the people who have supported us this year that are not here, that tune in to watch us play. You think we've, as I said, this is our 6th knockout game of the season. So, working back from last week, prior to that, we lost the final in London where we had 30 or 40,000 Leinster fans travel to London to watch that game. Prior to that, we would have played Northampton in the semi-final, where 83,000 people turned out to watch us in Dublin in Croke Park, which is again an iconic venue. We had a couple of games in the Aviva Stadium prior to that, so we've had unbelievable support all during the course of the season. So a little bit more challenging for supporters to get here last minute. But there was a couple of supporters we had there watching the captain's run there, so which was great to see them. And we know that we have this fantastic support at home, and a lot of our players have come through the system where they've come through clubs and schools within the Leinster region. So you want to just see guys perform now, and do themselves justice, and make the people that support them all during the course of their season, but over the course of their careers proud as well. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of that.
You are aware that the Bulls are going to allow the spectators tomorrow to bring in oranges and tins and that kind.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
For you, not a good thing. If both teams keep to their structures and play according to the plans and everything, it's going to be a tight game. What do you see as the single factor, if you can do that will determine who wins and who loses?
Well, for all its complexity, the game of rugby, it's a simple enough game as well. So I think that's the contact area is probably the big thing, isn't it? So, which is the collision between the attackers and the defenders. So, whichever side of the ball that you're on. So, whoever wins some of those that contact point, and I think that'll go a hell of a long way to win the game, obviously. But that's sort of the game over the course of time, isn't it? But it's the contact point, so it's being clever around some of that as well. So it's not necessarily you need to be direct run into people, but it's how good you are in terms of some of that collision part or that contact part between attack and defence. So again, we've got some good guys that have some good evasion skills and good footwork, and making sure you utilise some of those skills. But I think that's the big thing in the game, isn't it? Between who comes out on top between that contact area.
And comparing your semi-final tomorrow and the one in the Champions Cup.
As in Northampton, you mean?
Yeah.
Northampton, again, go back, you think how we sort of managed that period. If you think, so we played La Rochelle in the quarterfinal Champions Cup, and then we leave to go to South Africa on the Wednesday. with a probably younger group. Really, I thought we had like plenty of experience within that group as well. So we were disappointed how we performed, particularly in that Lions game with a younger probably group that played against the Stormers. So then we had Northampton the week after. So we were a little bit cold maybe going into that Northampton game. It was the feeling. We started the game well, scored a couple of good tries, I thought. Northampton came back towards the end, and I think Northampton have shown, even winning the Premiership, the quality that they have in their team. So, different challenge because the style of team that Northampton are versus the Bulls probably. There's the conditions. Again, our guys have they've experienced plenty now. If you think since that game, and we played Ospreys post that game, rotated some of the group, played the final, rotated some of the group, played the quarterfinal. So we're back at it again. So again, it's just another knockout game, but you need to get so much right in terms of these games because it's on the day and who's got the best prep during the course of the week, who's clearing the plan and who's able to really properly execute on the plans. Because again, it'll still come back to some of those physical contact points during the course of the game. So I thought we got a lot right in the Northampton game, but it's just a totally different type of challenge, isn't it, today?
My final question, if I may, Lunga, is it possible, in your view, that you can win the URC and the Champions Cup in 1 year?
Is it possible? Definitely, yeah. So we were very close to win the Champions Cup, fellas. As I said at the time, there was a drop goal we had at the end. If we'd gone 2 feet to the right, we'd be sitting here with a Champions Cup, winning team, getting ready to play a semi-final. Whether we'd win this game or not, I don't know. Would that make a difference? But we'll find out afterwards. But it's hard, isn't it? Like, it's fighting on 2 fronts is hard, and that's why some of the decisions around managing the group. Because if you think we've come off the Six Nations and we're 13 games in a row since then. If you go to a final, it was 14 games. So that's probably slightly longer than what we would have had traditionally. This last block of the season used to be only 10 weeks, whereas now it's 14 weeks. So if you think it used to be the June test, now it's the July test. So it's unusual for us to play provincial rugby in June, because normally the season's finished at the end of May. So when we started playing Pro 12 and Pro 14 after that, the final would have been at the end of May. So it's not impossible because, in 2018 we were able to do the double. Granted, it was without the South African teams. So we obviously have done it in the past, a double. With the travel and all that goes with it, it just makes it more challenging. Is it impossible? No, of course it's not impossible. But yeah, it's bloody hard. But you can see with the teams, obviously some teams get knocked out of, say, Champions Cup, so they're able to rest up and fill up the fuel tanks, so to speak, whereas other teams truck on. So obviously we've been trying to truck on every week, and that's the challenge. That's what we want to do. So it's hard, and that's why maybe some teams do what they do. But for us, we'd still be as ambitious as always, and try to go after a few competitions because we value them very, very strongly. So and they're fantastic challenges to go after, aren't they? Great challenges.
Coach, how do you sort of keep the guys mentally in tune following the disappointment of the Champions Cup final, and also again knowing that many of them will be involved against South Africa, the Springboks, in a few weeks' time? How do you sort of keep them in tune on this?
Well, they're a very ambitious group for starters, and we try to do our best in terms of the management of the group over the course of the season. And at some stages during the year, you give young guys opportunities, which again is fantastic because again, we're producing more often than not guys who have come through the system. So we're not really bringing a huge amount of guys from outside of Leinster. So, but over the course of the season, we're trying to make sure guys are mentally fresh and they're able to fire. And when it gets to the knockout games, often back at the disappointments. Last year we lost the Champions Cup final and we had no game afterwards. So it's almost like we were relieved to be able to turn our attention to something quite quickly. And there's always a little bit of this emotional sort of, a bit of a roller coaster to a certain extent. And that's something that we've discussed. So I think you've seen, a period where obviously the Connacht game the week after we had to make some changes to get a bit of freshness into the group. You saw some good parts of our performance last week, but there's lots of parts of our performance we need to try and improve on, and that's been the focus. So it's that sort of continuous improvement that the group are after. So yeah, no, good challenge. But this is because it's a new challenge completely. A lot of guys wouldn't have been here before. It's something that they're excited about embracing, and the time away together. And it's great. Like, so we're excited by it, but we understand that it'll be bloody hard as well. Sorry, I'm drawn to that last question. My mind was still thinking back to that because I watched obviously the Stormers La Rochelle game because we were waiting to see who would get on the plane to travel. Obviously, La Rochelle won at the death, or well, as in the kick could have won the game at the very death. And obviously, seeing the Stormers at the end, and that was John Dobson what he said. The only saving grace is they don't have to play next week. So, because remember, if they lost a good few guys through injury that day, but that just shows you how hard it is, isn't it? When you're up against some of the top teams, and but that's the beauty, you know. We're still little old Ireland, so we are. You guys are the big boys. We're a very small rugby nation. We sit well behind in terms of game popularity. You think we've soccer, Gaelic football. Marcus is a Gaelic footballer, so he is. Kilmore Crokes, very successful team in Dublin, and hurling as well. So that's the challenge for us. So we're trying to punch above our weight.
I would definitely not repeat it in Dublin when I get there.
Okay, boys. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks. Sorry, folks. I'm just going to move them out of the way. If that's all right.
Bring in the heavy hitters here.
Hey, Cian, Johnny, can you hear us okay? Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, so from here on in, it's embargoed content. So yeah, I'll leave it to the floor, please, guys. Thank you.
From Elsmith, that's the one that stands out to me. That's interesting. But wondering what you're going to do about the centres and if you move David maybe to wing or not.
Yeah, that was just, as I said to that guy now, I just think David's shown so much improvement in the midfield. And what tends to happen if you move him, then you make another change. In other words, you break something that's basically trying to be put together. So and he's trained well. Like Cornell's trained really well. Cornell, as in Smint, he's trained well. He's probably, as I've been, it's one of those things where I've been saying to him, just be patient, you get a chance. Now he gets to play in a semi-final against an Irish backline. So, I mean, that's what sport's all about for me. And there's no use me telling a youngster you're going to get a chance, and when it comes, then I go another route. So, he's obviously a hell of excited. He's been around, he played SA schools, there's a goal kicker, he's got some skill, quick. It probably helps because I know that Jacques and those guys wouldn't expect him to be playing either, which means that there's no video work they can do on him. So it's amazing. Maybe, who knows, there's a game of his life tomorrow and then everyone will know who he is.
Of course, in terms of that's the inclusion, in terms of exclusion, also could see any news on them. I posted update a week ago. Did he not quite think?
Yeah, I probably could have played him. But I credit to him. He just doesn't want to be a yard slow. Doesn't want to be not where he needs to be and allow Leinster, to, because the way Leinster play is he has to be 100% right to fill the field. Him carrying the ball 5 meters out or him, making a tackle is the easy part. But the way Leinster play, as you see, the way they played Toulouse, I think Lamont touched the ball 14 times. James Lowe touched it 11 times. 25 times the outside, all those two wingers touched the ball. You have loose forwards that are not filling the field defensively, then you basically help them expose you on the outside. So, credit to him. So it was actually quite an interesting thing because when I announced it, I said, guys, the one thing I respect is if he's not ready, he said he's not ready. Because a selfish guy could say, I want to be in the semi-final, I want to play at home. So, I think that players can respect him as a captain as well because he makes that decision. And it's always easy to say, I agree until you're the guy. So that's a very good lesson for us as a team as well, that even our captain, if he doesn't think it's the right thing for the match, then he pulls out, then maybe next time someone else is going to be in that situation. He's going to also have to make that call.
Because how crucial is the return of Marco Verstappen, especially when you look at the nation yesterday, the way that they played. Was obviously got to a few very good on the ground. How important is it for you to also have a presence in the ground with Marco as well as Phil players will get played to the ground?
Look, I mean, I think so I wasn't sure about the kicking stat, but you might be right. But the one thing about them, they hold on to the ball. If you're just comfortable giving them the ball, they'll keep it for 20 phases. So you've got to find a way to get it back. And you've got to be accurate at the breakdown too. It's easy to say, we just go hard at the breakdown, but you give a penalty away and they kick it in the corner, you end up defending a 5-meter line out. So it's nice to have him back because he's got experience. He's played in the World Cup. He's also wants to play in 2 weeks' time. He wants to be part of this team that plays against Ireland as well. So I just sense with a guy like him, it's almost like a trial for him as well. They got Jaspers out because of the suspension. I'm not sure what's happening with Sia in terms of where he is. I'm talking about finals and Racing Metro. So he might feel this is a great opportunity for him to show the selectors that he can be ready for 2 weeks' time. And how much better can he be, or how much better can it be for him to play against Josh van der Vlier and Caelan Doris and Ryan and the guys who are probably going to be in the Irish team in 2 weeks' time.
Lastly, from your approach, how vindicated do you feel now with the signings of the likes of Devin Williams and Cordell Smith that they come in to help you in such a situation that you find yourself in right now, and they can slot into a big game like this?
I'll tell you what I am most excited about is that I've changed the team around enough times to know that if Devin has to play now, it's not like and Cornell's probably an exception, but he's been training, and I always knew he was going to get a chance. I just wasn't sure when it was going to come. It's not a case of being vindicated. You want a squad that's balanced, and you want a squad that you can interchange. And I mean, Devin was on fire in the beginning of the year when Vinny wasn't here. I mean, Devin was one of the stars of our team. So he also adds a different dimension as well. He's left-footed and he's played fullback, so it means he's going to be good under the high ball because he's and we know they like to kick up and unders as well. So I mean, I'm not just singing out those two guys. I think the fact that Cameron comes in and starts above Marcel doesn't. Some would say that Cameron has played better than Marcel did in the last couple of games as well. But that's what's so nice about interchanging a squad is you get comfort out of the fact that it's not seen as panic, or it doesn't seem as you picking players who aren't mentally prepared for what's coming.
Listen,
Jake, looking at this fixture, you would have considered yourselves underdogs with Keenan and Currie, and then you lost them, which kind of made the situation worse. You've now lost.
So we would have been underdogs even if we had Eben Etzebeth and Soisia Kolisi and you, I think again, I really am a realist. You guys are underplaying how good Leinster are. Yeah, they have. Ken Eddie's got more test caps, and more games for Leinster than I think our whole bench has got together. I mean, that's the caliber of guy they have. So when you say underdogs, I mean, I read in the paper they said the underdogs. If I spend 10 years at a club and I have 25 internationals, and I tell you that we're underdogs, you would be panicking.
But the question was, how much worse is your situation now?
Well, it's not worse, as in, I wouldn't use the word worse. It would be better if we had those experienced players there. But I'll tell you, that's what the beauty of sport is no one thought Benetton could beat us last week, and they nearly beat us. And so, it just shows that on the day, if you play well enough and you believe and you have a crack, and that's one thing that I'm going to say to you, we're gonna have a go. We're not going to die wondering. So, if I sit here and I go, geez, we've lost Kane and we've lost Currie, and geez, what happens if Marcel's not playing? Well, then we really got no chance anyway. So I mean, those guys, who knows? Maybe Devin scores the winning try tomorrow, ends up becoming a household name in Pretoria. That's how quickly sport changes. So I'm comfortable. I mean, that's the best we've got. We've prepared as best we can. We know the challenge. I'm really not naive or unrealistic in saying to you, this is, like I said it, and it's quite spooky when he says it, but it's probably the biggest club game we've had in a long time. And especially because they're coming here in 2 weeks' time to play a test match. So it's a little bit like playing the Crusaders, and next week the All Black, or 2 weeks' time the All Blacks are coming here, and 2/3 of the All Black team are playing for the Crusaders. So, and this group's never experienced that. And the Victors and the Buckies and the Pierce Pieces and the Free Dupreas, they got that. These guys have, Rainbow Cups have been against Griquas, Pumas, Griffins, and then they go through, the next trophy, whatever, Super Rugby Unlocked, and they get Lions away and Stormers away, and all of a sudden 4 years later you're getting Leinster with 25 internationals, a World Cup winning coach, and a team that's desperate to win. There's no more I can say about that other than we'll have to see tomorrow where we are.
Sorry, if I could ask on that. A lot of the talk since Benetton from you guys about what chances you have of beating Leinster tomorrow has centered on someone said defense, you're going to defend for our lives. Giannis, I think, said we got to be good at things that you're only talent for. Altitude, heat, hopefully, all of that stuff. It's those stuff that's not technical. At a technical level, what is it that you think you should do to beat this team, given that you've actually statistically got the better line-out, and they've turned over more turnovers than you have. You've taken turnovers, and they are here.
I would say the one thing is, well, not the one thing, but the technical stuff is just doing the basics as well as you can. Now, you read any book Doc Craven wrote or whatever, you need your set piece, you need your defensive pattern, you need your goal kicker to kick well. I suppose those are just, I know it's such an obvious answer, but against a team like this, and then the last thing is you're going to have to fight for 80 minutes because they're a quality team. They took Toulouse into injury time, and Toulouse got a budget of about 300 million. And they've got the best rugby player in the world now in that 9, and they've got Intermac at 10, and they took that team into injury time before they lost the game. So without sitting here, and because it almost sounds like whatever I say is wrong, but we still got to grow. I've been here 4 years, and I said to you, we played Griquas and we played Griffins and and now it's gone like from that to Leinster at home. And all these test players and all these guys, don't underestimate, they too want to play for Ireland. They too want to make sure that the Irish coach wants to back them. So we're just going to have to be as good as we can at the things we do. And the answer technically is just do the basics as well as you can, and don't try and do things that you don't need to do, because it's going to take a team effort, even the bench. I'm going to have to use my bench tomorrow as well, because if they play for 80 minutes, then I'm going to expect the bench to be part of that fixture as well. Jackie,
we saw what happened in Dublin when the Leinster bench came on. And we also saw recently a team like the Warriors finishing very strongly in the second half against the Bulls and Loftus. It's almost like, that storm is coming in the second half. How do you counter?
Well, it just depends. Again, I can only answer when I see what team they're going to pick. Hopefully they do the same thing and put their bench, put all the best players on the bench.
Yeah.
And when I say hopefully, I'm saying then hopefully we get a good start and they got to play catch up. But I can't answer until I know how they're going to. And in that game specifically, they put all the main guys on the bench, and then when we put our bench on, then basically our bench, who were guys that weren't our number one, were playing their number ones. So which, if you think about it, is a massive difference. So I can only answer Quibus on, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm only see, but I don't. They're so good, and they're so good and so talented and so experienced that, if Caelan Doris plays or Conan plays, then which one do you think I'd prefer to play against in the first half? And if Maloney starts and Maloney, or Ryan starts at lock, does it really make a difference? Because I think they're so oiled and they're so, I read something the other day and I listened to it. These guys have played in the last 3 years. These guys have played in 3 European Cup games. This group of players have played in the World Cup. This group of players have played in URC playoffs. This group of players have played in Six Nations and won Six Nations. Now, when you add that up, Quibus, geez, that's an incredible fast-tracking of skill, experience, and compared to Kriquas away or Pumas at home, or that's been up. No one's fault. Just trying to compare apples with apples. This group of players have won Six Nations, played in the World Cups, played 3 European Cup finals, played in. Geez, and all they do is they change the color of their jersey. They go blue one week, green the next week. Now, that's a wonderful position to be in. It's a little bit like when I got to the Brumbies and the days of Gregan, Larkham, Mortlock, Roth, that team, Finnegan, Jeremy Paul, Bill Young, that team played for Australia. They played for Brumbies and Super Rugby, and then they swapped to gold jerseys and they play for. It's no different to what's happening in Ireland. And I say it to you because that's where I want to get to. I want to get to when we run out the tunnel, whether Alris on the bench or whether Marcel's on the bench or whether Cameron Honeycomb, hopefully is a Springboks on the bench, or whether Gumedi, who's now in the Springbok squad's on the bench, will be in the same position. But we're not there yet. But one thing about sport, which is fantastic, there's no give-it about who should win and all that, because that's why sport is such an amazing thing. Because you've been in situations or in stadiums where you didn't think the guy had a chance and he ended up winning.
Good. This game, this season, you've sort of applied the lessons you learned from the previous season. It's got to this point. Tomorrow's game, how much of a test is it for you, to learn and see where the group is, and also see where you are, as a coach, at this point?
Well, that's what I want to take out of tomorrow. We play at home. We've done all the hard yards. I said to you guys many times the last couple of weeks, if I'd said to you, listen, Bulls come second on the log. This year we play Benetton in the quarterfinals and Leinster in the semi-finals. There are not many guys that were involved in this club that would have said no. So we've managed to get an improvement of where we are as a group, but we want to win. I don't want you now to hear my voice and think that I'm content that that if we lose to a very good Leinster team, that therefore everything's fine. I want to win, but it's always a measurement for us as a club. It's we want to improve. Have we improved? I'm sure we've improved. Having a guy like David Kriel, when I hear that, I get really excited because people are talking about David Kriel. He's not even in the camp. So that's the kind of guy that we've got as a backup. So it's a measurement. It is a measurement for us as a club. And to be really honest, boys, we don't really have much to lose, do we? We don't really have much to lose. We're playing against a quality team. They beat us by 40 points the last time we played. It could have been worse. But that's also, sometimes it's also a bit of a blessing because we can actually play and play like we want to just, enjoy it.
But Leicester's desperation to win across people to win and is it something that you can sort of use to inspire the team sort of firstly to work around that?
Yeah, well, Jacques won trophies, so you'll know how to win trophies. Let's be fair, people always talk about that, guys. They said the All Blacks choked the Rugby World Cup and then they won 2 in a row. So, one thing about sport is going to change. They're too good a team. They're too well coached. They're too, signing and go again, Adria and Geordie Barrett next year. Geez, guys. Eventually you're not going to always be able to use the excuse about these guys can't win. I think their win record is about 90%. Think about it. A lot of these guys could play. Some of these players could have played the whole year and never lost a game for Leinster. Or even Ireland. So I don't know, did they lose in the Six Nations? And I'm not sure, but if they didn't, they could spend the whole season where some boys who played for Leinster and for Ireland probably haven't lost a rugby game this year. There's not many guys that play professional rugby that can say that at the end of the season.
Coach, I'm not sure about the ticket sales, but then how if you are you got Pretoria, there's a vibe, everyone's embraced. Kids out and
I'd love it to be sold out. I told you guys the week. One thing that I know what it's like, and again, I've been long enough in the game to know that when you arrive at Loftus and there's 50,000 people here, it's an incredible advantage for a team, for our home team. But It's difficult. It's just difficult because a test match here in 2 weeks' time, middle of the month. People don't have the money, and But what I am hoping for is that the sort of diehard supporters will bring their families and they will be here to support the team. Because one thing we do need is we need as many supporters here to be behind the team.
And Jake, we've spoken a lot about you guys being underdogs, but on the contrast, you guys have got a very proud record here at Loftus. I think only Munster's beaten you in your URC at Loftus. So how much of your talk to the players is about them coming to your house and making sure that they understand that they're playing?
Yeah, well, Brendan, that's why I suppose one goes hand in hand. If we get a full house here, we get all these fanatical Bull supporters, which we know are so behind the team. Then it is a massive advantage, and we will talk about it. We don't want to be losing, in front of our crowd or on our field anyway. It's something that, over the last 4 years, I think we might have a 90% win rate at home in all competitions. So it's not something we want to give up. But I must say, I don't labour that point to the players. I think they instinctively know how nice it is to be at home. The change room, your own home, your own bed. Your own pre-match meal in your own restaurant. It would be a very different challenge for us if I was sitting now in Dublin, about to play at the RDS or at the Aviva. And that is, I think all teams that are doing well in any competition pride themselves on what they do at home. As I said, I'm not sure in Leinster, but I also think there haven't been many teams that probably the last team that have gone to Leinster and won as well. So I think any good sporting team takes pride in the fact that their home games are must-win games. In fact, if we had beaten Munster, we would have come first. It just shows you how important winning at home is.
And just now, if tomorrow goes you guys' way and the ball bounces the right way and you guys win the game, would you consider that a bigger win than in Dublin 2 years ago? Considering with the group, it would be close, because I think the reason that game was so big, it was away from home and it was with a really, really young, inexperienced team. If I go through that team, you won't believe who we picked. I look at it. I don't want to, belittle anyone that was in that group, but if I compare what we have.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is D-Day. It is almost time. The URC, after months and months and months, have come down to the final 2 weeks, and this is it for the Bulls. This is the big one, I think, really. If they get to the final and they lose the final, so be it. But this is their biggest match in a long, long time. Welcome, everybody, to the official watch-along of the Bulls versus Leinster here on Forever Sports. My name is Steve, and I'm going to be taking you through the game over the next couple of hours, and we are expecting absolute fireworks. We've got an incredibly internationally packed Leinster side who have went agonizingly down to Toulouse in the Champions Cup final. This is their last opportunity to get their first trophy in 3 years, by the way, against a Bulls side who have been growing throughout the season and finished second on the log, who are slightly depleted, but have got that home support. It is the Loftus faithful that they'll be looking to try and carry them through to the URC final. It could even be a home final if they were to win today and Munster were to lose later. So strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, and get ready for what is going to be a hectic, bumpy, action-packed ride. First things first, I want you to start doing a few things for me. We've got a poll running in the comments. We're going to try and see exactly what's plotting with regards to who people are supporting. So go and throw that in the comments. We've got almost over 500 votes. I want you to go and start voting on that poll. Let me know who you're supporting. The next thing is I want to know your score predictions. We've got 4 minutes to go until kickoff. Get your score predictions down in those comments. Let me know who you're backing. Let me know your thoughts on the game. We are going to go through the comments and read some out and see what everybody has to say. So get your thoughts into the comments right now. Let's have a chat. Let's get the conversation going. The next thing I'm going to ask is a favor, and that is I want you to please like the video, share it with your friends. Let's get as many people as we can into the chat. Let's get operating. Let's get ready for the game. And hopefully you guys are all on a couple of drinks, some beverages, some selector lagers, for example, as we gear up for... It's been a Super Saturday, really. We had the Purchase winning by 1 run this morning. If you stayed up to watch it, it was a very weird game. But a game that did that did see the Proteas win. So that's the main thing. We've now got URC semi-final here. We've got another URC semi-final after this. There's US Open golf happening. It's the Euros football. So it's an absolutely action-packed day of sport ahead. Christian van der Werve has been the first one to throw out a score prediction. I lie. Remember Zulu threw out a score prediction just before. I'm saying 30 points to 28 to Leinster. Christian going with Bulls 31, Leinster 28. Carmen going with Bulls 43-40. So that's 3 predictions in, all backing the Bulls to get the result. Bold predictions. Martin going with Bulls 17-12. So again, everybody's sort of backing a bit of an upset. It is an upset, really, if the Bulls were to win today, because when I go to the teams, which I will in just a second, it's a bit ludicrous, isn't it? The quality that this Leinster side has. But again, everyone, the old saying, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, everyone's got a plan until you arrive at Loftus, I think is probably the best thing the Bulls can rely on. It is warm today, by the way. I was talking about earlier about how it's not going to be as warm as it would have been traditionally, and it won't be in terms of 30, 35 degree heat. But it is a balmy 23 over here where I am, so pretty much the same. So it will be warm over at Loftus. Perfect conditions. Haven't had rain in weeks now. The altitude will definitely come into it. So this is the small things the Bulls have got to try and use to get this result. Let's have a look at the teams, by the way, as we get your score predictions in. Flynn Faraday is saying Bulls 38-25. So keep getting those score predictions in. Let's go through the lines and see exactly who is who in the proverbial zoo. For the Bulls, it is Geerstein Kamp, Johan Grobbelaar, and Wilco Louw. What a signing Wilco Louw has been for the Bulls. Been absolutely terrific. And I expect him to be knocking on that Springbok door very, very soon with the way that he is playing. I've been very, very impressed with him. And it's been good to see that, it's a sign the Bulls have made. That's really come good. So hopefully that he does sort of show his weight again today. In the second row, however, it is Ruan Nukia and Ruan van Mark, the 2 Ruans. Ruan van Mark, for me, is someone who's I've been really, really impressed with. I think that, he played for the Lions for a bit, so I do know him as a player, but I always raised him. But he's kind of a bit of a journeyman. He's come back to the Bulls where he's been really good and been a key player for Jake White this season. If we then look at that back row, this is where, for me, it gets very exciting. World Cup winner Marco van Staden is back and is fit and will face the Leinster today. He is joined by Albert Lowe, as well as the sensational Cameron Hanekom, who's still in his debut season. It's worth noting, and that's how good he has been this season, is that, he looks somebody who's basically like a seasoned vet, as has been his season so far. So really, really cool to see that he's grown that so quickly and become a bit of a household name. In Rosa Pierre partners Johan Goosen in that halfback pair, and Devin Williams comes in, as does Sergio Peterson. Into the wings, no Kurt Lawrence and no Kanan Moody, which is big absentees, but at the same time, very good players to have in the forms of Sergio Peterson, as well as Devin Williams, who's been fantastic, also in his debut season, and then the Billy LaRue at fullback. That's the kind of experience you need, isn't it? That's exactly the kind of signing that the Bulls have made, which I think have made them a better side. Your Wilco Lowe's, your Billy LaRue's, for example. I think, those couple of signings have really, really been a game changer for the Bulls. And I'm hoping we're going to see those sort of players really stand up today and try and carry the Bulls as much as we can. We're about to have kickoff, by the way, so get ready. In terms of the bench for the Bulls, it is Aka van der Merwe, Sampier Matanzima, Francois Klopper, Renard Ludwig, Nizam Carr, Keegan Johannes, and Chris Smith. Cornel Smith, by the way, has not played a lot of rugby this season. Just 14 minutes off the bench, gets his first real sort of big appearance potentially today. Bulls, by the way, playing right to left, and we are underway. Going down that left-hand side, pretty deep, in fact, pretty central towards Jamison Gibson Park, and Ross Byrne will clear. So a decent start there for the Leinster, who didn't quite find touch. Bulls taking it quickly. Johan Goosen takes it to the line on the 10-meter line. He's going to have a good game today if the Bulls are going to progress. And speaking of the devil, there is Wilco Louw, who I mentioned earlier. And a bit of sunshine down the right-hand side. Their first carry for. So it's been a bit of a ball has been turned over, yes. So Leinster come away with it. And Ross Byrne goes to Tyke Furlong. We'll go through the Leinster side in just a bit as well. Byrne is going to the air here. Devin Williams is back. He is the fullback by trade, and he's fantastic under the high ball. It's a great take by Devin Williams. Ball's back on the halfway line, and Rose up here looks for options and finds one in the form of Gerard Stennekamp, who is on the Bok radar. Be interesting to see if he does get a potential call-up during this year. A bit of a counteract there coming from Leinster, and Ambrose Pierre needs to be very careful. The ball eventually is secured, and I think he's going to look to use it. He does. He goes to Harold Forster in the centres next to David Creel. What a season that David Creel has had in particular. Harold Forster's coming towards the latter stages and been very impressive. Now down to Johan Krobler on the halfway line there. Ambrose Pierre keeping the ball in hand. Now going to you. Really, little chip over the top. And it's won by Jamison Gibson Park, who offloads to James Lowe. A bit of pressure, looking for some options. Goes to that right boot of his, which is not his favourite boot. Devin Williams, by the way, now decides to chip over the top. And he's turned Ross Byrne, who decides, nope, you know what, we'll just mark this and slow things down. Let's go through the Leinster side, shall we? In the front row, it is the All-Ireland front row of Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Ty Furlong. The second row will feature a very talented youngster, Joe McCarthy, next to the captain for today, James Ryan. Ryan Bard, Josh Van der Fleer, and Caelan Doris, the loose trio there to really try and match. In fact, I mean, all those three players, Ireland internationals. That loose trio battle, I think, for me, is going to be one of the most exciting ones. James Ryan, by the way, get down and receive a bit of treatment. So not good news there for Leinster, but he looks like he should be able to continue. Jamison Gibson Park, in the form of his life, starts in the number 9 jersey next to Ross Byrne in the number 10. The two wings, James Lowe and Jordan Lama. You've got Jimmy O'Brien at full back. In the centres, Robbie Henshaw next to Gary Ringrose, who will add a lot. Came back from injury. The first line of the day, and it was a good one for the Bulls as Marco Verstappen flings it out to Ambrose Pierre, who goes to Creel. Long pass out wide to Sergio Peterson, who's had to catch it on the bounce. Almost gets away from James Lowe, but his leg does go into touch as he does slip. Off the bench for Leicester, it will be Ronan Kelleher, Cian Healy, who's played lots and lots of Test rugby, Michael Alatoro, Ross Maloney, Jack Cohen, who played all 3 British and Irish Lions tests against the Springboks a few years ago, Luke McGrath, Kieran Frawley, and Jamie Osborne. Well, that's it's a good start. It's a good start. It's a hectic start, frantic start, really. And we're going to go through some of the comments in just a bit as Leinster get their first line and solid out on the bounce to Robbie Henshaw. Goes to Gary Ringrose. Almost a bit of a half break there from Caelan Doris. Tell you what, that is a sublime turnover from Cameron Honeycomb on the ball so quickly, getting that up with it and turning it over. That's fantastic from the youngster. Down on the right-hand side, Villaroo, just seeing a bit of space. Wants to chip it to this. Will this stand up? It does stand up for Albert Lowe. Albert Lowe looking for options. Decides to try and take on the physicality of James Lowe. Does very well to stay in field. Now Sergio Peterson needs a bit of support. There's the counteract coming from Leinster. Now Creel trying to counteract there. And the ball goes out. I think this will be a Bulls lineup potentially. It is a Bulls lineup. What a nice little dab ahead that was from Billy LaRue. So really exciting stuff early on here from the Bulls. Going to some of the comments. Ruiz, commentary vinyl, who said the Shark captain keeps shining. Bulls 31-27 Leinster. Leinster lungs are going to be flat by the 65th minute. Ruben Stein reckons Bulls by 10 points. Carl says we can destroy them with our forwards. Big Shark, given that Leinster pack, I think is very, very good. And that's a decent line of that. And the Bulls going to the rolling more. Yeah, I think the big thing for the Bulls, they've got to try and score early. That is what Leinster do. They try and score a few tries earlier, basically out of the game before you even really get into it. So the Bulls similarly will try and stay into the game as long as possible. They can score first, for example. Oh, that's a massive hit that on Cameron Honeycomb by Gary Ringrose. A ball comes loose, but it's well done by Derek Creel. Now Jan Hussen goes himself, seeing a bit of space. Once again, now going to the bench there. So Devin Williams is after this. And he comes off of Jordan Lama. And there's a bit of a question there. And Dan Sheehan comes around the corner. Eventually brought down by, I think that's Albert Lowe. It is Albert Lowe. Leinster up towards the halfway line. Quick defense there from the Bulls. Now looking to spread it. James Lowe now goes to that left boot of his, which is used very well by Ireland as well as Leinster. A bit of time now for Johan Hussen. Right up against that right-hand touchline. I don't think he's looking for touch. No, in fact, he comes inside. And James Lowe does take it. He'll have a bit of time now to find a touch fine in it. Looking to try and find a decent distance there, James Lowe. Right up against the touchline is Johan Hussen. He exits the safety of the 22. So, once again, going more for sort of a bit of a territory game here towards James Lowe. James Lowe is going to take his time. And that looks like it's going to look for touch. And he does find touch. It's a really good touch finder as well. He's got a very useful left boot. Does James Lowe. Finds touch on that left-hand side. So, not the worst result for the Bulls. They do have a line inside their own 22. They will have possession, which is the main thing. No contest there from Leinster. Bulls once again looking for the rolling more here. Use it as a call from the referee. Ambrose appears there. Jan Kobbelaar goes himself. Looks to pop it up to Cameron Harnicombe. He spins around the tackle. Making good meters as Cameron. Good work from there. Quick ball here from Ambrose here. Now, chip off the left boot there to Jan Kobbelaar. And I tell you what, if he had taken it cleanly, it could have been interesting from Devin Williams. Knocking it on. We'll have our first set piece of the day. Interestingly enough, they've obviously identified the space in behind, because we had already seen quite a few chips in behind by Billy as well as by Johan Goosen. And that would have been really good from Devin Williams. Tell you what, he had a bit of space in front of him. He had Currie on the outside as well. So it's a bit of a mistake from Devin Williams, but an exciting start here from the Bulls. All right, first scrum. I think this is going to be a very interesting one. I think the Bulls' front row is very underrated. So I think that they'll cope. I don't think they're going to have the upper hand, for example, but I think that they'll cope with this what is effectively an island tight 5. In fact, an island pack. You see what I mean? And I'll tell you what, a bit of a second shove from the Bulls there. That'll give them a lot of confidence. Still going with the Bulls there. No penalty coming from Jamison Gibson Park. Goes down the right hand side. He's got a lot of space. He chips ahead for himself. Ambrose here is backtracking. And I think that's popped up perfectly. Jamison Gibson Park, what a player. What a player he is. Perfect chip over the top, and has rolled out literally inches before the deadline line. But look at the scrum here from the Bulls. Initially, and then bang, the power coming in from Clarence Stenekam. Elric Lowe coming in and adding his support there. So that'll be a big confidence booster for the Bulls. But this chip ahead from Gibson Park. Look, Ambrose Pierre had the pace. So had it gone a meter or two further, he would have been able to dot it down. But instead, the Bulls have a 5-man line out. It's a 3-man line. I imagine this is going to go over the top. Now, it does go to Ruan Nokia. Bit of a risky one, that. And now Marco van Staden, Eskom van Staden, as he's known, runs into Kellen Doris and Dan Sheehan. Ambrose Pierre taking his time. He's got Johan Goosen towards the back there. In the pocket, he will go to Johan Goosen. He needs to find a good clearance, get the Bulls out of trouble here. He does find a clearance just outside the 22, so not a bad one. This will, however, allow Leinster to sort of form their first attacking set piece. If you're asking, yes, I will be live for Wales versus SA next week. There was a bit of touch and goes whether I was going to be able to do it because I was going to potentially supposed to be in Neisner. But I will be here and I will be on your screens for that game. Possession so far, 62% for the Bulls as Leinster go to the front of the line-out. And quickly taken by Josh van der Fleer. Jumps Gibson Park, looks for the switch. And a bit of inside ball to Dan Shears. A good tackle coming from Cameron Harnicombe. Nice start from the 8th man here. But Leinster on the front foot inside the 22. Ryan Baird now. To the left-hand side to Tyke Furlong. Wrestling. Tyke Furlong still getting through. Jan Goosen trying to go for the rip there. Allowed him to get a few extra meters. Now Josh van der Fleer. The ball's gone through his hands. But only falling as far as Robbie Henshaw. Who steps away from one. Almost gets the offload away. Does get the offload away to Gary Ringrose. And knocked on at the breakdown. Very, very nice work there by the Bulls. Not particularly accurate. And you can see Jamison Gibson Park immediately having a go at a couple of players about the inaccuracy there. Angie Porter almost sort of telling him to calm down. But he's fuming is Gibson Park. A bit of a word to Ruan here. He's having some running repairs. Referee having a conversation on the ground. I'm not entirely sure what he had to say. Right, so the 10-minute mark And the Bulls are currently playing in blue common, and Leinster are in white. CJ saying, who would you say are the top 5 rugby teams currently? You probably go Toulouse, Leinster at the top there. After that, I suppose an argument maybe for Northampton having won the Premiership. We'll have to wait and see exactly what's happening with Super Rugby. The Blues versus the Chiefs next week in the final over there. Munster probably will have their word about that. And running it from the deep here are the Bulls. Creel eventually going to the boot. Bit risky, but that's a massive kick. I tell you what, if that goes out, it will be a 50-22, but it's going to just stay in. But it's all the way back by the try line, and Jimmy O'Brien will dot it down for what will be a goal line drop. That's a massive kick that from David Creel, almost threatening to be a 50-22. So that's a very nice clearance. So literally go from basically your own inside your own 22 to a goal line dropout, which means that they will receive possession back, is a very good clearance. Right, scoreless so far in the first 11 and a bit minutes. The restart, they're falling to Albert Lowe. He goes inside. Jan Goosen's lining up a drop goal. He's going to have the distance, but I think it will fade to the right-hand side. Not the worst idea from Johan Goosen. Struck it well, had the distance. Wasn't far away either, so it'll be a 22. Just goes down that right-hand side. If he had nailed that, that would have been the first points of the game in really good fashion. Right, so Ross Byrne here with the restart. Goes down that right-hand side. Albert Lowe underneath it. Nice big hit from him. Ball available for Ambrose here. Wilco Lowe now. That's a big hit from him. Josh van der Fleer having to have a second go. Now Ambrose Pierre on the right-hand side to Jan Goosen. Jan Goosen goes to the boot. Sergio Peterson's after this. Knocks it back to the Bulls side. There's nobody there. Ruan Okia eventually comes away with it. Runs into James Lowe. So the bounce of the ball almost favouring the Bulls at the moment. They'll really want to try and ride their luck for as long as they can. Now Billy Leroux looking for that cross kick towards Albert Lowe. And he does get it. And he gets away from one as Albert Lowe. Holding on. He's still going as Albert Lowe into the 22. What a carry that is. Quick ball needed here. Mark of a start and does it right. Pick up and go. You've got support here from Johan Krobelaar. Bulls in the front foot. Ambrose Pierre. Billy Leroux. Forster. Quick defense from Gary Ringless. But Billy Leroux is coming around. Billy Leroux looking to try and create a bit of a gap. Billy Leroux goes to Cameron Hanekom. Cameron Hanekom pops to Sergio Peterson. Peterson throws it back inside. They've hit the behind. But Ruan Nokia runs onto it. Bulls still with possession. I don't know how they managed to stay in. They're 5 meters out here. Ambrose Pierre. Jan Goosen. Back to Billy Leroux. Billy Leroux. Once again, goes to that cross kick. A bit of a late shot on him towards Albert Lowe. Pops it back inside with Devin Williams. Devin Williams outside. That's a great tackle. Great tackle. And that's Gary Ringrose. Oh, what a classy player Gary Ringrose is. He's made a couple of interventions in this first sort of 13 minutes. But I tell you what, that's a great piece of passionate play that from the Bulls. They're going to have a look at the shot here potentially here from Joe McCarthy. Looks a little bit clumsy. I don't think it's too late to warrant it. Billy Leroux's having a go, and he wants to have that checked. There is a Bulls player on the ground. Jimmy O'Brien also getting a bit of receiving a bit of attention. So a couple of early knocks here. I think it has been quite physical. It's interesting that they've gone to the cross kick so many times, and we're seeing Albert Lowe on the left-hand side. So we're definitely seeing very deliberate tricks coming here from Jake White. Albert Lowe, it's the second time the cross kicks come towards him, and you can see why. The physicality, I mean, he sat down Jimmy O'Brien, who's getting some treatment on that shoulder. Don't know if it's a sting or if he has potentially dislocated it. The replacement for him would probably be Kieran Frawley, I'd imagine, would come on, or Jamie Osborne. I'd imagine they'll go to Frawley first, but he will be good to continue here. Will Jimmy O'Brien. It will be a Leinster line just inside the 22 when we do restart. They go to the front. It's not the best line at that from Leinster, and it's been deep as it should have been knock-on advantage. Should have been snatched up by Cameron Heineken when we knocked it forward into the hands of Caelan Doris. Could have made them pay for that mistake, but instead it's a free ball here for Gibson Park with a knock-on advantage here for Leinster. I wouldn't say Loftus is full. Probably about 30,000 tickets sold, I reckon. Right, up there goes Devin Williams, and it falls back towards Leinster. Now, back to Andrew Porter. Jan Kobler and Ruan Nokia completing that tackle. Gibson Park looking for the go to the boot once again. They do look to kick quite a lot, does Leinster. Right up against the touchline. And I'll tell you what, so Jan Goosen decided to let that bounce. It did, in fact, bounce just in and then went out. So could have gone a bit badly there from Jan Goosen. Was really hoping that for him that he was going to, the ball was going to go out in the full. Didn't quite pay off. So the Bulls will have a line just outside the 22. So accurate as Jamison Gibson Park. As I said, playing probably the best rugby I've ever seen him play in the last few months. Becoming very quickly the most important player for Ireland. And you can just see Jan Goosen getting that wrong, just bouncing inside. Right, Marco Verstappen going to Cameron Heineken. He runs into the referee, but not impeded apparently. Now back to Jan Goosen. He's going to go to the boot, looking for distance down the middle of the park. And he has turned. I'll tell you what, backwards is the call. Loftus Faithful disagrees with that assessment. So he's got away with that one, has Jordan Lama. Now Jan Goosen going down the right-hand side. James Lowe backtracking, and that ball just needs to hold up a little bit. It'll hold up outside the inside the Lingol area. James Lowe puts it on his left boot. So he's looking for touch. I don't think he'll find it though. Sergio Peterson will keep inside. He goes to Jan Goosen. He's had a very interesting kicking battle so far. Now he's going to lift this up for Sergio Peterson to give chase. He's after Sergio Peterson. He won't get there, but he will look to put pressure on Jimmy O'Brien, who takes it cleanly. Gibson Park spotting a bit of space on the left-hand side. And they're going to have to shift the Bulls. Joe McCarthy comes away with a good tackle from Billy LaRue. Ball goes up to James Lowe, almost forward. Right up against the touchline as well, but doing well to keep it in. Now back inside to Andrew Porter. He pops it up to Ross Byrne. Left behind here by Dan Sheehan. Turnover ball from Cameron Heineken. Now loose ball. There's the knock-on advantage though. So we'll go back for the scrum. Interesting scrum this one, given the fact that the Bulls had such a strong first scrum. So they'll have the feed this time. So if they can replicate that kind of dominance, this is very much potential penalty territory, but you can see Ross Byrne, they just wanted to get rid of the ball far too quickly under the pressure of Ruan Vermaak. Dan Sheehan knocking the ball forward. It will be a Bulls scrum just past the 10-meter line. I'll tell you what, if I'm a Bulls fan, I'm very, very happy with what I'm seeing so far. Almost 18 minutes. They've played all the rugby so far. They've been inside the Leinster's half and just haven't been able to convert to points just yet, but have started really positively. Marco Fisher reckons Bulls by 4. Stan Naidu said this is going to be a 90-minute game. Well, what do you mean 80-minute game? Even if we have extra time, it's, I think it's 10 minutes aside. So technically it'll be a 100-minute game. But yes, I understand the concept. But so far, look at those stats. Bulls, 61% possession, 62% territory. Not a bad scrum by the Bulls either, by the way. Cameron Heineken picks up and goes by himself. Still going. He's taking Gibson Park all the way up to the 22. A quick ball from Ambrosia Pierre. Jan Goosen. Long pass out towards Billy LaRue. Billy LaRue to Devin Williams. Devin Williams towards the corner. And the Bulls strike first. So deserved. And it has to be that man, Devin Williams. What a signing he has been. And of course, Billy LaRue, the assist king, clutching up. Massive, 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 massive moment in the game. Loftus on their feet. Devin Williams with his 4th try of the season. Billy LaRue, it's this pass here from Jan Goosen though. This over here, he spots the rush defense. Bang! Cut out pass towards Billy LaRue. Just drawing past. Then Devin Williams got all the time in the world to run that ball in towards the corner. It's so, so good from the Bulls. And that is the perfect start. Oh no, we're going to have a TMO review. Oh dear, this might yet be ruled out. Let's have a see what the story is. I don't know which pass you're going to look at here. Could be foul player for Marco van Staden. I don't know. That's so stupid. Marco van Staden is just going to cost the Bulls a try here. Yeah, that's just so stupid. Marco van Staden has off the ball thrown Ross Byrne to the ground. Ruan Nokia begging, but I mean, why? You know, when one of your biggest players, your World Cup winner, one of your marquee players does that, that's so stupid from him. I mean, you can push them out the way. You can, like, just, or you know, complain to the referee, but you don't grab the guy and basically suplex him onto the ground. You know, like, really. And what was going to be an early try for the Bulls has officially been ruled out. Spartan says, guys, Leinster are better than the Bulls after half-time. Watch them finish you off. Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? So far, the Bulls have very much been the better side and could have been ahead as well. So I think, yeah, I'd be absolutely fuming if I was a Bulls fan watching that from around. It's just so silly for Marco van Staden and so obvious. Just push him out the way if he's holding you up. Just run into him or something. Now, Webby Henshaw in the midfield. Penalty for Leinster on the halfway line. Cameron Hanekom, no release is the call from the referee. Interesting. Will we see Leinster? I mean, Jake White said, very matter of fact, that when Leinster get their first penalty, that they won't go for poles. They'll go for the corner. And they are going to go for the poles. So I don't know if that's maybe been bought by Jake White. But they are going to take the points. I think that's actually a bit of a sign of respect of how good the Bulls have been. And, I mean, the best teams can absorb the pressure, take the points on offer. Yeah, I never released the call on Cameron Hanekom, was the assistant tackler. So I think it's a fair call by the referee. But for all of the Bulls have dominated, should be ahead as well. Were it not for a moment of madness from Marco van Staden. It looks like Leinster will, in fact, take the first blood, potentially. Ross Burns, it's on the halfway line. Distance won't be an issue. He is kicking at altitude, so whatever he kicks normally, you can add an extra sort of 5-10 meters on that. Right, 20 minutes into the game, scoreless, but Ross Byrne from pretty much in front of the poles. Oh, he's pulled it. That's an awful kick. An awful kick from Ross Byrne. Goodness me. Well, that's a big let-off from the Bulls, to be perfectly honest. Ross Byrne is a lot better than that. Yeah, not far away from Cameron Hanekom. Just had to show a release to the referee. And that's another mistake from the Bulls. Trying to go quick, short shot on the 22, and they've knocked it forward. And they've gifted Leinster an attacking scrum. Poor from the Bulls in the last few minutes. A couple of mistakes. And this is amazing how things do turn. When you think that at one stage, I mean, they just scored. They had literally scored. And since they scored, they conceded a penalty, which saw the try chalked off. Another penalty, which saw Ross Byrne have a go at poles. And then knocking it on just outside the 22, which will give Leinster an attacking line-out. So incredible how things change so quickly. Big scrum needed, yeah, from the Bulls. It's a decent hit from them. When this ball comes in, I reckon the Bulls might have the front foot here. Really working hard. There's Volko Low, but it is available for James to give it Park. James Low pops it up, and Sergio Peterson has knocked it on. Penalty is the decision from the referee, so this will be once again an interesting decision. Will they go for the corner? Sergio Peterson's not happy about that. He disagrees with that assessment. Going for the interception there with Sergio Peterson. I don't think he can really complain. I don't think he was ever really in a position to catch that. And I think this could be a yellow card, in fact. I think that's what they're potentially looking at here. So a big moment in the game, this. Big moment. If Bulls reduced to 14 men, that could be a big, big moment in the game. So this is deliberate. Yeah, there's the yellow card. Yeah, so I don't know why the score on the thing is showing 5. I actually don't control it. That is completely brought in from a data provider, so they've got it very wrong. It is still 0-0. It's very frustrating when you then rely on the official data feed so that you can't get the score wrong and then they get the score wrong. So a little bit annoying. It'll correct itself eventually, but the big news is that Bulls are down to 14 men. Leinster have gone to the corner. Right, on the 5-meter line here are Leinster. From the Bulls scoring and having the try chalked off to Dan Sheehan coming around the corner. That's a poor pass. James Lowe picks it up and he puts his head down. Good defense that from the Bulls. Good rolling as well. Kellen Doris just short. Pick up and go from Joe McCarthy. That's a good tackle that from Ruin from Mark. He was aware to the threat. Shifting to the right-hand side of the Bulls. Big decisions making now. And James Lowe goes over. It's been awarded as well. Leinster take first blood. And that's how you take your chances. The first time they've really had an opportunity inside the 22. And James Lowe's over for the first try of the match. How frustrating is that from the Bulls when you think that they had the try? Yeah, and there's just so many numbers there. And Mbosa Pierre against the touchline is never going to stop James Lowe from 2 meters out. It's too easy now, you know. The players are just so quick to take themselves off the ground. Once they're in the air, you're not stopping them. Right, second attempt actually from Ross Byrne. That's looking a lot better. He will raise the flags this time. Leinster will take a 7-point lead after 24 minutes and a big moment in the game with it down to the 14 men. Quick try as well. Do you start there? Jimmy O'Brien got a bit of space, goes to that left boot and does find touch. Good exit that from Leinster. Important period of play now for the Bulls. By the way, its score is 7-0. Trying to work out why the official data feed is showing the wrong score. So it will update very quickly, hopefully. If not, we'll have to try and sort something else out. But yeah, let's give it some time. It usually does right itself. But important period of time for the Bulls because they had that great start. They were dominant. They scored a try, actually, before it was chalked off. And now they've got to try and manage the game for the next sort of 7 minutes while they've got a player down. And the big thing, I think, for me is just don't stop playing. You know, you don't want to go into your shell now. You don't want to just think, okay, cool, well, because we're man down, you know, the way to manage the game is to just start playing rugby. Keep playing your rugby. Try and keep it maybe a bit more compact. Devin Williams almost being blocked there by Jordan Lama. Went for the cross kick there. Once again, still trying to sort of go down that left-hand side. Obviously identifying a lot of space over there, has Jake White as coaches. But Gibson Park goes to the boot. That's not gone particularly far. This will be contestable. And has fallen back. It's been taken very well. I think that's Gary Ringrose. And almost on the ball, there was Johan Krobler quickly up there. And Cameron Harnacorn putting a bit of pressure on Kalen Doris. Big tackle on him as well. He's been everywhere so far as Cameron Harnacorn. Did concede a penalty, but he's been really, really solid. Now he's getting stuck into the ruck as well. So making his presence felt. Gives it Park once again, goes to the boot. Still not going particularly far here. Billy LaRue's called for it and comes off Billy LaRue, I think. I don't think there's a knock-on advantage. Long pass from Gibson Park towards Jimmy O'Brien. He spots a bit of space on that left-hand side where Sergio Peterson would have been. However, he has completely overcooked it. It's gone out from the full and it will be Bulls line. Big let off that. A concerned Bulls coaching staff looking on there. Can't see Jake White. He'll be behind them. Now, Villarreal once again goes to that boot. Harold Forster comes through, but this is going to be a free catch here for Jordan Lama. That's actually over Jimmy O'Brien. And good tackle that from Harold Forster. Leinster right back. It's outside the 22. Digging for the boy here is Gibson Park. Goes to the short side. Josh van der Fleer. We haven't seen too much of him with ball in hand. Good tackle that from Creel. Tarek Furlong. Well, he's a bit indecisive. And it's a good tackle coming here from Ruan Nokia, who drives him back with the assistance from Marco van Staden. Now Gibson Park. That's a bit better from him. Right up against the touchline once again. Billy LaRue takes it well. Gets it off that away to Ambrose Pierre as well. Fires it off to Jan Goosen. Jan Goosen looking for space. Jan Goosen decides to step himself. It's slightly isolated. Gerard Stennekamp does do well to go and secure the ball. This is from Ruan Nokia and Ruan from Mark. Now Pierre goes back to Billy LaRue in the pocket. Billy LaRue spotting a bit of space on that left-hand side. And this could be a 50-22. That is phenomenal from Billy LaRue. And 50-22 from Billy LaRue. It's still 7 points to 0. I'm literally communicating to the flippant data provider to say their score is wrong. So let me try and see if I can just sort something out quickly. Now back in the angle comes Harold Forster as I'm trying to sort the scoreboard out. Quick, give me 2 seconds. Now good to carry that from Ruan Nokia. Now just short there is Cameron Honeycomb. That's a good down carry. Ambrose Pierre looking for options. Slow ball here. I think it could be hands in here. Pick up and go from Johan Krobela. Surprised no penalty advantage for hands on the ball there from the referee. And straight through goes Johan Goosen. The ball's hit back. Massive moment in the game there. We're down to 14 men. They've deserved that. They really have deserved that. Building up the pressure. Responding perfectly. Just over 2 minutes left for the yellow card. But the Bulls, and under the pole as well, so that should be them level. I think that's his first try of the season here from Johan Goosen. Yeah, just so much space there. Actually pretty easy in the end. Okay, well, let's see if they update the score. That is currently the correct score. 5.7 is currently the correct score. If it does update to like 12.7 or the likes, then we will switch to a manual score, which I have got sorted. But for now, that is the correct score. Right, 7 points to 5. Jan Goosen now to make it 7 points apiece. Yep, straight over, no issue. Right, 7 points apiece. And the confidence the Bulls will get with that from scoring a try whilst down to 14 men will be massive. Right, so it is 7 points each. Which is what the score card reflects. So hopefully that means that they've sorted that out, which is good news. But still down to 14 men. Right, so scores all level. Half an hour into the game. They go down the middle, and it's a good take that from David Creel. Usually where Billy LaRue would be, but you can see that's obviously a tactical thing that they put David Creel, who was primarily a fullback for the season. What a season he's had in those senses. Now goes back to Jan Goosen, who will clear. And shout out to Billy LaRue for that 50-22, which really created that try. Ross Byrne points to the skies. We'll lift it back up. And it's a good take that from Jimmy O'Brien. Cameron Honeycomb all over that ball. Ball has been lost, though, and the Bulls have turned it over. So ball available there for the Bulls. Good turnover that. And Brosa Pierre looking for options. Goes to Jan Goosen on the run. That's a massive kick. Ball will slow up just outside the 22 for Ross Byrne. He pops it up to James Lowe. James Lowe will chip it towards the line side into the 22. Willie Leroux. Got Jan Goosen outside him. Now he sees a bit of space. And again, this could be right up against the touchline. Barcelona ball saving James Gibson Park. He's just taking his time. Good take it. And Willie will take quickly to Jan Goosen. Jan Goosen has the pace on Ryan Beard, as you'd imagine. Then chips on the right-hand side. He's going to chase himself just outside 22 to Ross Byrne. We're seeing a very interesting kicking battle at the moment. Ross Byrne will return the favour. He lifts us high. Lama's going to give chase. And Brosa Pierre gets away from Lama. And he's wrapped up by Robbie Henshaw. But spilled by Ulrich Lowe and then regathered. Still going as Ulrich Lowe. So ball available for the Bulls. The time is up here on Sergio Peterson's red card as well. Yellow card rather. So he'll be able to come back after this play. Wilco Lowe making a yard or two. Now Jan Goosen goes to Willie Leroux. Willie Leroux once again dabs on that left boot. Into a bit of space. Devin Williams. Almost slows up, but it does go out for a Leinster line out. And Bulls will be back to a full contingent, so very, very important. Because Sergio Peterson left at 0-0, he's come back at 7-7. So effectively, the Bulls have not suffered from that yellow card. There's 6 minutes left in the half. All right, Leinster back to the back of the line. Good take that. Gibson Park goes to Byrne. Byrne goes short to Doris. Marco Stardens up quickly to make a tackle. He needs to make amends for his earlier error. Gibson Park spawning a bit of space. Chips over the top for Dan Sheehan. But Ron O'Keefe, very aware to the threat, takes it very, very well. On the halfway now. And Brosa Pierre. Inside ball from behind Goosen, but well read to David Creel. Good work to retain possession there. Gibson Park with the counter ruck. And they go to Wilco Lowe, who knows one way, and that is forward. Check the size of the thighs on that man. Oh, that's a horrible pass. Jan Goosen's going to have to go all the way back to fetch this. Josh van der Fleer is lurking, but does very well as Jan Goosen do. Give himself a bit of time. Then dabs it ahead into Byrne. He throws it back inside towards O'Brien. Assessing his options. Goes to that left boot. He's gotten over Sergio Peterson, and it's going to slow up. So Brosa Pierre has put in a long kick. That's a brilliant kick. It's actually bounced back inside. So Ringrose fires it to Ross Byrne. I'd love to see the amount of kicks from hand we've had so far in this first half. I think at least about 20 per team almost. Deep there for Willie Leroux, but no real chase. There's a bit of time in as Willie Leroux. He's first at 50-22 once again. But ball bounced back inside. This is going to stop just by inside the Ingle area. So Jordan Long's going to go all the way back and just dab it down. 4.5 minutes left in the half. And Leinster will kick to the Bulls. So at this stage, the Bulls I think will be very happy with life. Right, the restart there goes to Ulrich Lowe. He's going to look to try and run it. And it's a good tackle there by Jordan Lama, but ball available outside the 22. Jan Krobelaar. The referee gets very, very close there, actually. He's often actually in the way. Here now, Goosen goes short. Big carry there from Van Staden. For all that he is a jackler, he loves having ball in hand. He is known as Eskom for good reason. Knocking the lights out. Now Wilco Lowe, he's carried very well in this half. Slow ball here from the Bulls. Eventually available for Brosa Pierre. And it's Van Staden once again getting away from one. For Pierre now. Goosen. Willie Leroux. Flat to Cameron Honeycomb. Cameron Honeycomb decides not to offload to Sergio Peterson. He's still going. Offloads to Creel. Does very well to hold on. Oh, it's a great offload there for Devin Williams. Almost a high tackle. No, nothing from the referee. Brosa Pierre now goes to Ruan for Mark. 7 phases from the Bulls. Goosen goes to Willie Leroux. Willie Leroux once again going to the left boot. It's Ulrich Lowe towards the touchline. And he's taken out Jordan Lama. It's a knock-on advantage for the Bulls. No, okay, I thought there might have potentially been a penalty. Obviously, going for the ball is what the referee has decided from Albert Low, so it'll be a scrum for the Bulls inside the 22. Very surprised that wasn't initially a penalty. And then Albert Low going up and clashing into Jordan Lama. I think he was going for the ball, to be fair, so we are going to have a scrum. Right, so scrum, yeah, 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes on the clock. Right, so scrum here. Ball's gone down, but available at the back there. No, we can have a reset here. So no scrum penalties yet. It's been interesting because we have seen a couple of scrums go down, but nothing been called just yet. Right, so another reset here. Less than a minute on the clock in the first half. What the Bulls will do to get a try before half time. That's a big scrum from the Bulls. Penalty advantage here, finally. Imbosapia wants to use it. Goes himself. This could be either points for the Bulls or they can go to the corner if they're feeling confident. But first prize, they've got a free roll of the dice here with the penalty advantage. Vilko low. Inside the 22 now. On the left-hand side here are the Bulls. Imbosapia goes to Cameron Harnicorn. Now we're on Nokia. And knocked on there from Imbosapia. Right, decision time here from the Bulls. It's right on the left-hand side. So it won't be an easy kick here for Johan Kroos if they decide to take the points. There goes the hooter. Will they go for the corner? No, he's marching it back. They're going to take the points here. Yeah, they have called the points. That's interesting. Gerard Sinnekamp there hammering Ty Furlong. So that's a massive moment in the game. And what a confidence booster that'll give. I'll tell you what, somebody who's trying to push for Springbok call-up, Rusty Russell's be watching that. And Don Human will be watching that going, okay, good to know. Interesting. So Jan Goosen now with an opportunity to put the Bulls ahead at half-time. What a first half this has been for the Bulls. To manage to score with that's an interesting view. We've got some blank blue screen. To manage to score whilst down to 40 men to level the game, and now to have an opportunity right against at the death to take the lead. Very important kick this from Johan Goosen. It's looking good as well. It's looking very good. The Bulls will have a lead at half time. 10 points to 7. I'll tell you what, I don't think too many people expected that big second half to come, but the Bulls ahead. I didn't expect that. I must admit, I didn't expect that at all. I think a lot of people were expecting tries, given the fact that both these teams have got very good attacks and sometimes at stages leaky defenses. But at half-time, it is 10 points to 7. The Bulls do lead, is the main thing. I think if you're a Blue Bull supporter, I reckon you'll look at that half and think it couldn't have gotten much better, to be perfectly honest. We will be back very shortly, so don't go away. Make sure you smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. The Bulls have got a big 40 minutes ahead. If they can get through the next 40 and maintain the lead, they will book a place in the URC final for the second time in 3 years. Or will it be Leinster booking their first ever URC final? We'll find out after the break. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between Two Fans. And some breaking news: Dan Scott has officially left the podcast for this week. In case you're looking at why, he's looking a little bit better shaved, and In fact, I think you're actually the same age, to be fair. So it's a nice replacement to have. Mr. Alistair Block, how are you?
No, I'm good, Stevie. It's a pleasure to be on the show today, bro. Thanks for the invite. I'm glad that Dan's busy gallivanting there in Italy, giving me a chance to show him how to actually make some predictions. So, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who expect to see Mr. Dan Scholz, he is currently in Sicily. It's a tough life out there, and he's experiencing some genuine third world problems in his first world country with the lack of Wi-Fi. And as such, we've had to bring in the big guns. So we do have Mr. Alistair Block, who, for a bit of background, is an Arsenal supporter for his sins, is a Shark supporter for his sins, and even more so for his sins is also a Springbok, a Proteas supporter, and then Springbok supporters. That's where we really sort of we get one back. That keeps us sane. Right,
yeah,
so
I think it's but the Sharks, but Arsenal. You guys are missing some quality on the show, of some support.
Well, at least the Sharks coming in with a trophy. I suppose it's about the only thing that they contribute towards the season so far. But before we get stuck in, we'll update the listeners on the predictions. So every week, myself and Dan make predictions, and we've got a running total. And we have said the first one to get to 15, we'll have to do a episode of podcast in a rival jersey. So, for example, Dan in like United jersey, Stephen in Arsenal or Liverpool jersey, and the likes. The score was about at one stage, Steve had a massive lead. Dan has been clawing it back slowly but steadily. It was 9-8 coming into this episode. So let's just go through that before we then chat about a bit of rugby. So we had three predictions last week. It was Northampton versus Bath, Glasgow versus Stormers, and the Proteas versus the Netherlands. First up was Northampton versus Bath. I said Bath by 5. Dan went Saints by 3. Bath losing that 25 points, 21. So Saints claiming that the English Premiership, they were the best side all season. So very deserved. So Dan does take that one. I was really hoping to see Finn Russell clutch up that red card, potentially a bit of a game changer. So Dan gets 1 there. But Glasgow versus Stormers, I said Glasgow by 6. Dan said Stormers by 3. He went with his heart, and it was a poor decision. They ended up losing by 17. So I grab a big dub there by virtue of going with my Glasgow. And then we went Proteas versus Netherlands, and Steve says by 30 runs or 5 wickets. Dan said 40 runs or 7 wickets. It was a 4-wicket victory by the Proteas. So Steve has stemmed the flow, taken a 10 points to 8 lead, and Dan's going to have no say about what happens next week as well, because he has a proxy in the form of Alistair, who will be hoying those predictions at the end of the show. So I'll no pressure, because Dan was making a nice comeback, but I don't know, 11-8 suddenly becomes a bit ominous. So I hope you're ready for it.
No. Not to worry, Dan. I got you. I want to see Steve in an Arsenal shirt as much as you do on this show. So this week's predictions, I got you down, my boy. Don't stress.
I think my biggest worry is more the fact of trying to find an Arsenal shirt that might actually fit me. It's going to be very sort of tight shirts out here, which I don't think is what the viewers want to see. That might have to be a genuine podcast episode. But let's get into some ruggers, because we had the URC quarterfinals last week, and we'll go through the games here. Munster beating Ospreys 23 points to 7. Bulls winning 30 points to 23 against Benetton. Leinster beating Ulster 43 points to 20. The only sort of real blowout win there. And Glasgow beating Stormers 27 points to 10. Before we sort of get stuck on some of the individual ones, a fair reflection, I suppose, of the table, in that all the home sides won, and the top 4 are indeed our top 4. So do you think we genuinely now have our top 4 best sides in the URC in the semi-finals this weekend?
Well, the Sharks aren't there, so no, I'm kidding. The Sharks were awful this season. But, looking at it, Steve, I think so. I'm disappointed not to see Stormers there, given that in the past few seasons they've been winning their quarterfinals, getting to the semis, getting to the finals, even winning the whole thing. First time the South African teams were there. But Glasgow this season, particularly towards the latter half, have just been immense, and they deserve to be there, top 4, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think let's sort of stuck into some of the individual games there. So Bulls versus Benetton, I think, is one I want to talk about because the Bulls, who have been running in tries for fun and looked really good, struggled a little bit in this game, which I think sort of shows you how play of rugby can be quite predictable. I think if they were away, I think Benetton could have done the job. But what do you sort of put that down to? Do you think a bit of nerves for the Bulls? I mean, obviously missing a couple of key players in the likes of no Kane Moody, no Kurt Lawrence, who's injured last week and stuff. But it looked nervy from the Bulls. What do you reckon was the cause of that?
Yeah, look, you can never ride off Benetton, Steve. Those guys have been pretty immense the whole season. Particularly at home, away they've been strong as well. I mean, look, they did themselves, I don't want to say a disservice by beating the Sharks, because obviously that got them into the quarterfinals, but that win away at the Sharks was really good. Bulls themselves, you never know. Like you say, playoff rugby, it's intense, it's unpredictable. Can't say that the Benetton team wasn't used to the heat from what Dan's Instagram stories are saying. It's looking quite hot and nice there in Italy. So, yeah, I think it's also just could be a thing of Bulls perhaps underestimating their opponents. Italian team coming over, a bit of jet lag. Well, I don't know if jet lag's the right term, but certainly being tired from all the travel they've done in the past few weeks could have been a factor. But, yeah, it was nervy for the Bulls there, but they got the job done. Only South African team left, and I hate to say it, but I'm backing them all the way.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the Bulls, for me, this season, they've scored a lot of points, but their defense has been a bit leaky, and they're playing against Leinster this weekend, which is a side that scores points for fun, really. I mean, putting 40 points past Ulster in the playoff game. Maybe also a little bit leaky in the fact that they can see a 20, but yeah, I mean, going into this game before we start talking about Glasgow and Munster, do you think is it safe to say that'll be the difference? If the Bulls are to pull off the spectacular and knock Leinster out, they're going to have to sort the defence out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't think it helped them losing Currie in, what was it, like the 29th minute or so, and he had already scored 2 tries at that point. And Currie is immense on defence, Steve. People think, like he's a small guy, but he brings Oaks down. Leaky defense could be an issue for them. But, yeah, look, the Bulls' attacking threat we've seen throughout the season has been wild. Even though they're shipping like 23 against Benetton in the quarterfinal, and I think a couple of weeks before that they shipped 35 against them at home in the league stages, the group stages rather. But then they went on to put 56 on Benetton in that game, put 40 on Glasgow, 61 on Ospreys, 40 on Stormers. Their attack is excuse me, it's really effective. But against a team like Leinster, however, or Ireland, that's effectively who they're playing, that leaky defense right might really be a problem, particularly if they play the way they did against Benetton. Leinster won't be so forgiving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think both teams as well. I think it's going to be. It could potentially be a high scoring game. Considering that there were 50 points at Loftus last week, there were 60 points plus at in Dublin. So potentially a high scoring game, which could create a bit of a thriller. I suppose both teams will be backing themselves to score some points. Glasgow beating Stormers. Before we talk about their chances against Munster, let's just talk about the Stormers a little bit about. A disappointing performance. Mon Liebach boot not quite on song. The Stormers sort of maybe not quite where they needed to be. The Stormers have had a lot of success in playoffs in the last few years. They've had back-to-back finals, but that home advantage has always been such a big thing. Do you think you put it down to that sort of a way, the 4G pitch, the conditions, stuff like that? Are Stormers? Is it unfair to call them sort of home bullies?
I don't know if it's unfair to call them that. You and Scotty spoke about it last week. Stormers away, their travel form has been shocking. I think the only South African team that actually travelled really well was the Lions, who unfortunately couldn't continue to show that travel away form, getting put to 8th place by the Ospreys of all people. But
not happy.
Yeah, no, I understand. But Stormers away on a 4G pitch. South African teams on a 4G pitch, always looking a little bit dicey. Glasgow really turned up. It was a bit of an interesting first half, that quite low scoring until 60th minute when Concilier and Fencer got over the line. It was looking really close, but ultimately that Stormers away form just showed in the quarterfinal. They weren't up for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, a word about Mike Liebach, for example, it's always such a tricky one to talk about, but, he missed borderline everything last week. I think he basically did miss everything. A difficult conversation to have, but, do you think this is something that the Stormers need to now start basically embracing and almost sort of saying, listen, we know that his goal kicking is very inconsistent, that he has his days and he can have his off days. Do you think this is something they need to, looking ahead, even maybe in a Springbok point of view, that you've got to look at, if he plays, you have to have a potential second goal kicking option, and how do you think you then negotiate that?
Well, from a Springbok point of view, we saw the door. Sia Masuku's in, and
does Hanjay Pollard know about this? Yeah.
Yeah, look, for the Stormers, it's dicey. Me not being a Stormers fan, I'm not actually sure what other goal kicking options they have. And look, I don't want to be a Mani hater. I love the guy. He has made clutch kicks for the Stormers in playoff games before. He's won them the URC title. If we're talking purely kicking, it's different because you can't judge Mani solely on his kicking. His infield play is just crazy, which is why it's difficult to consider him only as a kicker. But when it gets to those clutch moments in a playoff game and Mani's not on song, you are going to need a backup kicker to make those clutch kicks. And for the Stormers, I'm not quite sure who's going to step up and do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I suppose, Damian Willems, can be an option when he plays, but he's also, not been known for his goal kicking. When Sasha Femi is playing, he's got a very good percentage. Apparently, he had a bit of a niggle this last weekend, which prevented him from taking it. But I think it is a genuine bit of a problem for the Stormers because when he's on song, as you say, what he does in the sort of the general field is untouchable. But he did leave out about 15, 16 points last week, which does change the entire sort of complexion of the game. Now, Glasgow Warriors, though. They're my second side when it comes to the URC. Love watching them play. They're up against the current champions. Are we giving them a chance this weekend?
Glasgow against Munster. Look, I'd love to see them do it, but I just can't see them getting it done. Munster are too strong. They're going to get the job done.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, shorten.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but look, their last game that they played at Munster, they lost 40 points to 29, and last season's quarterfinal was also against Munster at home. They lost 14 points to 5. I know it's a whole season ago, but Munster have experience at this level in the tournaments. Glasgow, not so much. Am I not wrong in saying that this would be the first Scottish team ever to reach a final if they do? Which just shows that they don't have, well, I'm not sure if they don't have the BMT, but they don't have the experience at this level that Munster do, particularly at Thomond Park, where they've been crazy good.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. I think Munster, you got big band players in Munster. Right, and we are back for the second half, and what a half rugby you have ahead of us. The Bulls leading Leinster 10 points to 7, off to a great start here. Bit of space down the left-hand side. As Nigel Pearson's after us, I'll tell you what, they're over. That's the perfect start. Goodness me. It's potentially on. It could be on. The Bulls with the perfect start. You couldn't have dreamed of a better start. Not even 2 minutes into the second half. Sergio Peterson, who got a yellow card in the first half, has officially gone over. The Bulls have scored. Leinster shell-shocked. Look at this, the wraparound, the hands, Evan Williams, the kicking behind by Harold Forster, and then the pace. Caden Doris can't keep up with Sergio Peterson. It pops up beautifully for him. The Bulls are over, kick to come. Dare they start dreaming? Do they start dreaming? Here's Willem Strauss. Chipper stole the Bulls. He's celebrating. Goodness me. The vibes are there. Vibes on vibes. Well, I'll tell you what, that is a hell of a start. Right, well, big kick to come from Johan Goosen. 15 points to 7 is how it currently stands. With this kick, could be a 10-point lead. It's coming back. Johan Goosen has nailed it. The Bulls do lead 17 points 7. How's that for a start? How is that for a start? Where's my water gone? You're like, good. I mean, that is amazing. Well, that's how you make amends for the yellow card, eh? Penalty for no release there against the Bull. Against Leinster, so Bulls free exit as well. That's a good kick as well. Oh, I'll tell you what, Jolipa's on the steady speakers. Things are going big here now over at Loftus. They haven't quite pulled out the Sweet Caroline just yet. That's a great kick as well from Jan Goosen. Bulls are on fire, looking for a final place, and Bulls are on fire. Right, Jakob van der Merwe, by the way, onto the park. And it's a bit of a fumble from Roanoke here, but backwards and back to Jakob van der Merwe, who scored a lot of points for the Bulls this season. He's, however, lost the ball forward in contact, so it is going to be a scrum for Leinster. But an early change that, and I want to change that is, I mean, Jake was talking about the depth and building that depth, and he said, you know, they don't quite have the depth for that Leinster do, and they need to try and build that. Well, taking off Jan Grobbelaar and putting on Jakob van der Merwe, that's the kind of depth he's talking about, you know. So he's been an amazing signing, but that's a big difference the Bulls have had this season compared to other seasons, is that they've had the depth to be able to bring in a Jakob van der Merwe off the bench, Jan Grobbelaar starting, still have a Jan Hendrik Wessels in the wings, and that's something that they're trying to build towards, having that genuine depth so there isn't a drop-off of quality when they go to the bench. And that's the only change of the game so far, by the way. So scrum now here for Leinster. And we're going to have a reset here. All right, Christian reckons 31 points to 17 to the Bulls. Well, 10 points the lead at the moment. Right, so scrum here, looking much better set, but a big shove there from the Bulls. And they've won the ball back. That's a massive turnover from the Bulls. Cameron Horner comes down on the right hand side. But a space for Cameron Horner. He goes to the boot. It's just going to stay in. Gibson Park. That's going to be a Bulls line, I reckon. Or was it a penalty against Ambrose Papier? Yeah, it's pushing without the ball for Ambrose Papier. So it'll be a penalty for Leinster. It's a bit poor that from Ambrose Papier. Again, it's the second penalty. Needed penalty. The discipline is going to be so important. You can't afford to give away silly penalties like that. So Leinster will have the line. It would have been a Leinster line on the 5-metre line. But what a scrum this is. Who would have thought that, of all things, the Bulls' scrum would become a weapon for them? Got Doris going there. Josh van der Fleer coming off the back. Right, Gibson Park now going to the boot. So Pearson, that's a good take. Well, I'll tell you what, it's very well taken. Actually, just in touch as the core. And that's a good kick, actually. So it'll be Leinster line. It's great work from Leinster. That kind of kicking from Jamison Gibson Park is what's so good. Right, into the midfield they go. Now Leinster on the right hand side. Space. And space here for Jordan Lama. Comes back inside, gives to James Lowe. Great tackle from Shirley Peterson. Up against, isn't in touch. Side entry, giving a penalty advantage. The ball's gone out. It will be a penalty for Leinster. And this is the problem, is that you can't turn off for a minute. A couple of seconds, and Leinster all the way right there. And then side entry is the call. Penalty for Leinster. They're going to go for the corner here. Malcolm Star looking to try and steal it. Just gets a park court on it. Pick up and go. Another penalty advantage here for Leinster. Now, Aaron Gibson and James Lowe will knock it on. Right, penalty right by the poles. What are they going to do? Right, 10 minutes to go. Well, 10 minutes. Sorry, 10 minutes into the second half here, and it's been a very, very busy 10 minutes. Looking for the tap and go here, Leinster. Dan Sheehan goes himself. Just short here, Leinster. Josh van der Fleer pops it up. Caleb Doris, that's a big carry, and they're over. They're over. Far too easy for Leinster. They hit back. Game firmly back on. Not that it was ever really off, to be honest, but yeah, that's a big moment in the game. And look at the physicality there. Is that not a flying wedge, though? I thought you weren't allowed to latch to the second person onto the ball carrier like that. They've had a check. Yeah, I was about to say, I wondered about that with having two people latch on, which you're not supposed to have. You can only have one person latching on. Leicester's bench, by the way, has 1,000 club appearances between them. And they've gone to that very bench. So lots of changes coming up from Leo Cullen. We'll go through them in a second. I'm seeing Marco Alatoa on. I'm seeing Kieran Frawley on as well. Ronan Keller here. So they've gone to the bench here, have Leinster. Try and nullify that effect with the altitude. But 14 points to 17. Ball still with a 3-point lead. They'll need to try and score next. Ball goes back to Ross Byrne. Puts it high in the air. Great to take that from Devin Williams. Villaroo going to Gerard Sterkamp. He's had a strong game at scrum time. And initially stolen by Leinster, but now they're going to have to leave it for the Bulls. Yeah, penalty. That's easy. That's easy. That's so silly. I don't know who is on the ground there. Right, Villaroo going to Johan Goosen. Long pass out towards Little Pearson. Showing, to David Creel. David Creel. Ball back inside. No advantage. Initial advantage. They're going to go all the way back, I think, for the penalty. No, it's a knock-on advantage for Leinster. And they're asking where the penalty advantage is. Rightly so, I think, to be fair. I'm very, very surprised that that's considered an advantage over. They've barely gone 20 meters there. I think the Bulls fans can feel rightly aggrieved by that one. Yeah, I can see Moscow saying, "See, I mean, it's clear hands in the ruck there from Joe McCarthy." He's still interfering with Ambrose up here. The referee then says penalty advantage. They're just past the 10-meter line. They then go wide, lose the ball forward, and it's penalty advantage. And see another reset at the scrum. Right, another reset here. Still 58% possession here for the Bulls. There's a free kick now for the Bulls. So free taking it from Leinster. James Lowe. Brought down by Jan Goosen. Now Ross Byrne goes to the boot. Right, so there's eventually a line here for Leinster. Ronan Kelleher will have his first feed of the day. And it's been kicked ahead here, so turnover ball. Harold Forster's after this, and Ross Burns going back. He's been under a lot of pressure here. Yeah, there is Akapana Murby. Harold Forster is over it. Big counter rack coming up for the Bulls. They're 5 meters out. Eventually, Leinster do scramble and get the ball back. And it's a big clearance there. Back to Villaroo on the halfway line. It's really well scrambled, but they're taking it quickly here. And Devin Williams now goes back to Villaroo. Villaroo's finding a bit of space. The wraparound here from Devin Williams. Creel taking it from Ambrose Pierre. David Creel. Creel kicks back inside. Ambrose Pierre, who's got the pace? It bounces over. Owen Lowe goes back towards Ronan Kelleher, who goes to the boot. I tell you what, different bounce of the ball, and that could have been a Bulls try. Now, a conversation from the referee to the players about controlling them. Look at the switch there. Almost a bit of a late tackle there. So we are having a look potentially. I don't think they're actually having a look at the referee. They're just a thing. So yeah, I think the referee needs to take control here. I think there's a couple of things happening off the ball. And McGrath on for Gibson Park. That's a big call to make from Leo Cullen. But yeah, look, I think this is where Rion Nakia needs to get involved here. You know, if there are issues, you've got to go raise to the referee. The referee's had a time chat to say basically calm time two teams down. But yeah, listen, there's been a couple of big calls here. Right, so eventually we're going to get things back underway with the Bulls line out. Bulls need to not panic. I think that's also the big thing. Even if they do feel that they get they're getting some bad calls and stuff like that, they've got to remain calm. They are leading. That's the big thing they've got to remember. That's corner split, by the way, on for Billy LaRue. So that potential late hit, which wasn't really called or even looked at, has resulted in an injury to Billy LaRue, which is the last thing that the Springboks need more than anything else. And now they're losing the line out there, but Rion Nakia's come away with it. But a knock-on from the line is the call. So it'll be a Leinster scrum. Pretty solid scrum there. Being told to use it now. It does collapse. Ball available for McGrath. Fires out to Robbie Henshaw. Runs into Johan Goosen. Mark Verstappen coming to lend his hand. As we tick towards the 60-minute mark. Ross Byrne goes to the boot. Cornel Smith, who's on for Willie LaRue. And it's knocked forward by Cornel Smith, who's on the wing, by the way. Devin Williams gone back to full back. Knock-on advantage for Leinster. Should be advantage over. Chip and chase from James Lowe. He does regather. Oh no, James Lowe in space. Ball back inside to Ronan Kelleher. Scramble defense here from the Bulls. Just short of the 22 here. Now Leinster on the front foot. James Ryan now, the captain. Penalty advantage here for Leinster. Ella Toa. Ball comes loose and Jan Goosen hacks it back, but they'll go back for the penalty. They're going to have a shot at goal here to try and level things up here. Officially attendance is 31,578 for those who want to know. Right in front of the poles here, Ross Byrne, to make things level. Makes no mistake. And you go think back to that Joe McCarthy penalty, which could have seen the Bulls extend their lead to 6 points. Instead, scores are level as we approach the 60-minute mark. Now it becomes very hectic. Here we go. Bulls rolling the dice. They're going to be on their bench. Both profs being readied, as well as Nizam Kar. An experienced head could be needed here in the form of Nizam Kar. A ball available from McGrath. Kickoff goes back to James Lowe. A very island type of exit. They go back to that left boot of James Lowe. Decent touch finder there. Right, Bulls need to get back into this game. They need to settle themselves down. Can't get bogged down. Cannot get too upset by the calls. They've got to just focus up here. At the end of the day, you can't change things afterwards, but at the moment, you've still got 20 minutes to go and you're still level. So that's a massive call from Jake White, by the way. To take off Bill Colo, he's having such a good time at scrum time. Pima Tanzima, Francois Klopper on. The finishers on here. New front row for the Bulls. Nizam Carr on as well. Here comes Jack Conan for Leinster. Not entirely sure. I assume it's Outlaw still on. So I think it's Cameron Harnicombe who's actually made way for Nizam Carr. And a penalty here for the Bulls. All right, decision time now. Will they go for the points? They have to go for the points, really. Right, so Jan Goosen with the boot here. This is going to become proper test match vibes in his last 90 minutes. Hasn't missed a beat yet, has Jan Goosen. This one looking good as well. The flags go up. Bulls back ahead. This is what I said. I said they can't lose their head. They're still in this game. Take it deep. Take it as deep as possible. Right, and Leinster battling hard to kick off, but Bulls have retained possession. Now, Jan Goosen gets kickers charged down. So turnover ball here. That's a big mistake from Jan Goosen. All of a sudden, Leinster on the front foot, just outside the 22. You can't afford to make those kind of mistakes. Big carry that. I think that's the replacement. I think it's the replacement tighthead, yeah. So I think that's Kid. He just come on. It was Kelleher. I think it was only Kelleher, actually. Now, Kellen Doris on the left-hand side. So Jack Conan came on for Josh van der Fleer. So Doris will shift to the flank. And Frawley, that's got to be offside. Got to be. I mean, how is that not obstruction? Now McGraw going to Ross Byrne. Ryan now. Cameron Harnicombe. He's also still on the park here, by the way. So who's he come on for? Marco Verstaden has left. Okay. But on the left-hand side, they go Leinster. Full of confidence. Side phases down. Ryan Beard now. Solid work here. And on the right-hand side, they go from Leinster. 11 phases. Desperate defense here from the Bulls. Gary Ringrose goes himself. Big tackle from him. Bulls desperately trying to turn the ball over. They have turned the ball over, but illegally so. And that will allow Leinster to level the points. Have to be disciplined here. You can't afford to concede penalties like that. Akka van der Merwe shakes his head, but I think he knows he was in the wrong there. We're seeing some French TV direction here from the Supersport producers who continuously keep showing some incidents that the referee seems to be missing. Right, Ross Byrne now to level the scores once again. And no issues there from them. Right, scores once again level. We've got a hell of a game on our hands at the moment. 20 points apiece. 50 minutes to go. Right, here comes Reinhard Ludwig, and he will replace Ruan van Mark. What a season Reinhard Ludwig's had. A breakout season for him. Right, Belu, by the way, will not be returning to the field. And that's a big knock-on. I'll tell you what, Harold Forster back on the front foot. Huge mistake that from Leinster. Knock-on from the kickoff. So knock-on advantage here. Reinhard Ludwig. Bulls now. 10 meters out. It's Pio Matanzima. Fighting hard. Bulls on the front foot here. What a moment this would be to score. Now Ruan Nokia, the captain, is lined up and hammered backwards. But support does arrive to secure the ball. Ulrich Lowe. Massive moment this for the Bulls here. David Krill doing very, very well there for the rush defense from James Lowe. Bulls just losing a bit of momentum. Up toward the 20, back toward the 22 they go. Taking his time now as Ambrose Pierre. Now Ulrich Lowe. Ambrose Pierre. Oh, drop kick here from Johan Goossens is charged down. Thankfully, it's falling back to the Bulls. Tell you what, that almost looked like it was falling back to one of the Leinster players. That could have been disastrous if that was the case. Not sure it's the right idea, really, from Johan Goossens. Can understand the thinking, but he just was far too close to a couple of the Leinster players. Took too long as well. All the way back towards the halfway line, but they do have possession here to the Bulls. Now goes to the boot, doesn't Ambrose appear. It's just outside. That's good. And Chisel Peterson's there to compete. And he's got it, Peterson! He's going over! Chisel Peterson, take a bow! Could that be it? Goodness me, that is phenomenal from Cyril Peterson. He goes up, he gets it, he comes down, he gets away from the man. He's in for a brace. The man, you can see the yellow card. He's barely played for the Bulls. In fact, I'm going to go find out exactly how much he's played for the Bulls so far this season. And Cyril Peterson might have just given Bulls the edge. That is phenomenal. Up it goes. Kieran Frawley is there. The desperation, puts his hand up. Bang, gets away from the tackle. I think it was McGrath. The big dive comes in it, and the Bulls are once again ahead. That is phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Before last weekend, he last played in January, Cyril Peterson. Has been left out for the last sort of 4 or 5 months. He's officially come back into the side, and what a moment that could prove to be. What a game we've had over here. Goodness me, goodness me, goodness me. Big kick this year from Johan Goossens. This to give them a 7-point lead with 12 minutes to go. And he's missed it. The first time he's missed it, Johan Goossens. A 5-point lead, 12 minutes to go. When they needed it the most, Cyril Peterson has stood up. Right now, Devin Williams clears. Now, this is what game management Jeff from the Bulls. Frawley goes to the boot. Someone needs to arrive. Devin Williams is arriving there, but it bounces back off a Leinster player. Yeah, Duck van der Merwe trying to get his hands on it. Right, Leinster with possession here. Ronan Kelleher, show and go. Maloney on for James Ryan now. Both teams basically emptying their bench. Osborne now for Ringrose. He's had a great game to Ringrose. the player that makes me nervous come the Springbok season. Ross Byrne, good wrap around. There's good hands from Leinster. Ronan Kelleher in the midfield. Good tackle that from Harold Forster, assisted by Nizam Carr. The ball goes loose though, and turnover here by the Bulls. They need small moments like that in the last 10 minutes. Chip and chase here from Johan Goosen. Seeing a bit of space. Forced to James Lowe though. Positioned very well. James Lowe drifting. Getting the ball float away. Now there's a bit of numbers here. Harold Forster has to make that tackle. Does make a very, very good tackle on Osborne. Big counter rack coming here from the Bulls. But ball is available there for Kellen Doris. David Creel made the defensive read. A good defensive read now. Kieran Frawley thought about the long pass. Opted not to. Now a bit of space down the left-hand side. Robbie Henshaw looking for options. Goes to Jordan Lama. He's wrapped up by Cyril Peterson and Rand Ludwig. McGrath. Flat towards Keller. Sorry, that's Andrew Porter who's still in the park. Inside ball from Byrne. And he held on to the ball there to Jack Conan. 5 phases here from Leinster. Down the left-hand side. Back to Porter. Into the last 10 minutes. Osborne now. Decides to go himself. Good tackle there from Rand Ludwig. Making ground here on Leinster. Down the right-hand side. Ryan Beard. Nizam Carr trying to go over the ball. Not successful. Byrne going himself. 9 phases here. The time ticking down. Kellen Doris going himself. Kellen Doris almost through. Eventually brought down by Ruan O'Keefe. Desperate defenses from the Bulls. Back on the angle goes McCarthy. Pops it up to Osborne. Matanzima brings him down. 11 phases this from Leinster. Frawley goes to Alalator. Relentless this. Byrne goes short to Jack Conan. Massive tackle coming from Conor Corn, but he gets to offload away to Frawley. Now Creel has to leave it. 14 phases. Kellen Doris just outside the 22. So far, Bulls defense holding firm. Byrne now. Lama. Osborne held up in the tackle. Smith eventually having to release him. 15 phases now. Down the left-hand side. Alalator caught behind the ball. Good tackle there on him. Back inside to Lama. Lama almost finding a bit of space. Quick ball from McGrath. Desperate defense there from James Lowe. Gets through one tackle. Eventually brought down inside the 22. Almost 20 phases here from Leinster. The discipline so far from both teams. Osborne looking to try and get his hands through the tackle. 20 phases now from Leinster. Don't blink at the moment. 8 minutes left. I mean, this pass. Oh, it's a huge tackle on Kellen Doris. Pick up and counter ruck as well here from the Bulls. Big counter ruck, and they've won the ball back. That's a massive moment in the game. Pick up and go from Cameron Honeycomb, looking for support. Pops it up to Ruan O'Keefe. Ruan O'Keefe goes to Nizam Carr. Nizam Carr says, bugger this. Onto the boot it goes. And he's chasing it hard here. Cyril Peterson. That ball's going to slope just in front of the poles as well. Nope, it's going to go just past. And Frawley will dab it down. They won't mind that, will the Bulls? There'll be a goal line drop up, but deep inside their own half an hour Leinster. What a moment that is. Ulrich Lowe, and I think it's Cameron Honeycomb. Huge tackle, bang, straight to their feet. Counter ruck was good. What a kick that is as well from the Nizam Carr. Almost slowed up perfectly. Kian Healy now on for Andrew Porter to see out the last 7.5 minutes. Jan Goosen receiving a bit of treatment. He can't afford to go off here. At this stage, the win prediction is 63% for the Bulls. I don't think too many Bulls fans will want to see that kind of stat. They'll be very nervous. The lights are out over there, Loftus. Looks like a decent vibe. Taking your time over here, Leinster, before getting going. I don't think they'll go too deep over here because Johan Goosen, if he's back on his feet, if he gets this deep, will be looking for that drop goal. Get that 8-point lead. Get themselves more than a converted try away. And this is where you need that home support. This is where you need the Loftus faithful. standing up and giving yourself every last bit. Bulls are less than 8 minutes away from an historical victory here. The referee eventually comes back to get things back underway. There's the whistle. Kieran Frawley. Yeah, he'll make this contestable. Goes high, but not too deep. Good take that from Aaron Ludwig. And now the Bulls. Game management this over here. Don't need anything too expansive. Keep it nice and tight. This is back when the old traditional Bulls rugby was so effective. That pick up and go, physicality on physicality. Nizam Carr. It's all about ball retention this. Wait for a Leinster mistake. Albert Lowe. Supuma Tanzima. Mbose Sapir taking as long as he can at every single ruck. Back towards Jan Hurston. He goes. And it's another late hit. You can hear the boos from Loftus at the moment. I think Ruan Okia. Jan Hurston is back to his feet. They've taken it quickly. You have Leinster looking for touch. Free kick is taken. And they found touch as well. So Bulls will be all the way back to outside their own 22. Yeah, once again, the TV director showing the hits over here. Is it a late hit? 50-50. Under 6 minutes left on the clock. What a victory this would be for the Bulls if they can pull this off. Time is on, but they're taking their time. As they will, they'll take their time. Billy, by the way, has failed an HRA, so that'll rule them out of the final, if that is the case, potentially. So that entire Springbok back three, potentially out of the final. But are they going to get there? Well, 5 minutes and we'll know. Slowing things down, keeping it at the more here. Uses the core. They're going to go back to Mbose Sapir. Cameron Hanekom. Taking a while to come down. Every last second that they can delay. Caelan Doris, they're not offside. He gets pulled away. Now Mbose Sapir asking for a blocker. Nizam Carr comes. Lifts it high. Sergio Peterson's after this. James Lowe underneath it. Good tackle there from Sergio Peterson. McGrath now goes to Alalato. That's a huge tackle on the Samoan International. His brother playing for Australia. Now, Byrne goes to the boot. Cornel Smith calls it. Comes off a Leinster hand and backwards, back towards Leinster. Byrne goes to Frawley. Not too many options. Frawley looking for options. He's going to go himself here. Frawley a little bit isolated. Ruan Nokia's there, but misses out on it. 4 minutes left. Leinster inside their own half. Byrne going to Osborne. Osborne almost through. Make a good tackle on him. Desperate defenses from the Bulls now. Big carry that. Three and a half minutes. The Loftus faithfuls coming through. You can hear them in the background. Black towards Doris. Slips the tackle. Eventually brought down by Aka van der Merwe. Still inside their own half. But it's based down the left-hand side. Robbie Henshaw. Henshaw inside ball to Osborne. It's a good covering tackle there, I think, from Francois Klopper. McGrath to the right-hand side. Ronan Kelleher now. Now to the left-hand side of James Lowe, right against the touchline. One penalty here is not going to be enough. And they've left it behind. Turnover ball here for Aka van der Merwe. Ball's come loose. Albert Lowe pops it onto Jan Hurston. Jan Hurston, oh, it's a high tackle. Has to be. It is a high tackle. He's fallen to the ground. It is a high tackle. But I tell you what, if there's ever a time for Jan Hurston to pull out like a TV dive, to roll, to say ref, look at the fans. It's all happening now. It is all happening. Time is off. 2.5 minutes on the clock. Bulls are going to hammer this downfield. waste all the time in the world. You can just see the seatbelt tackle over there. Now looking to see if there's more than a penalty, but nothing apparently. Right, 2.5 minutes left on the clock. To the line, the Bulls will go, and they'll take all the time in the world to get there. He's going for poles here, by the way. I mean, he's on his own team line. This is a 60-meter kick. I don't think he's got a 60-meter kick in his arsenal. Is it even him taking it, or is it potentially something like David Creel? It is Jan Koersen. He's got 60 seconds, so he's going to run the clock down, and that'll be the thinking. 60 meters. I don't know if this is the right decision. I mean, you can kick to the line. Look, he nails it, they win. It's that simple. But for me, you kick to the line, you take a minute to get there, you run down a minute, and the game is pretty much done. This over here has 20 seconds left. There'll still be a full minute and a half after he kicks this. If he nails this, he becomes a hero. If not, no, see, that's not going to have the distance at all. No, not having the distance. 5 meters short. James Lowe now. Now Leinster have a full 1.5 minutes. I think they would have had this anyway, but they would have been another minute deep. Now, I don't think that was the right decision, to be honest. That's a bit of a mistake, though. Frawley's going to have to come back and retrieve. And there's Zamkor. What a tackle that is. Catching Kieran Frawley behind the ball. What are Leinster going to do? There's a minute left. Are they going to kick it? Or do they have to keep ball in hand? They're looking to keep ball in hand. Alaf Toa is brought down by Ulrich Lowe. Desperate this from the Bulls to try and keep Leinster as far away from their try as possible. 1 moment. A penalty here. A knock on. And that'll be the game. Kellen Doris. Trying to rip it on the tackle there is Francois Klopper. Counter coming from Francois Klopper. Leinster have to put in a few more bodies. 30 seconds left on the clock. Jack Conan now. Immense this. Now on the right-hand side, Leinster go. 15 seconds left. This has been sensational from the Bulls. Pick up and go from Kalen Doris. He's been really good in a losing cause at the moment. Have they turned it over? They have turned it over. This will be it. This will be it. Ambrose Papier throws it back. Johan Goosen launches into Loftus. They have done it. The Bulls have knocked out Leinster. What a result that is. Absolutely sensational. They've taken on an incredible Leinster side. They've executed a plan to the finest of margins. They've rode their luck at times. They've sometimes didn't have the rub of the green, but goodness me, that is an all-time great performance. Jake White, I tell you what, take a bow. Take a massive bow, because that is sensational. Not only just in terms of the victory, but the way they went about that. They identified opportunities. They found potential avenues to try and exploit Leinster. And of all the people, you know, we spoke about no Kirkley Arnser. We spoke about no Kanan Moody. Sergio Peterson with the brace. You know, how incredible is that? Devin Williams almost scoring a try as well. You know, so of all the, you know, we always spoke about all the fact that they were missing players and stuff like that, and it's the players who've been given an opportunity which have been the difference. I mean, that is absolutely sensational. And this is the thing, you know, you come with the man, come with the hour. You know, you can talk about your big players being missing. You can talk about, you know, but you've got two options. You can complain about it, or you can say, right, well, we've got a squad. I'm going to give you guys a chance. Show me something. And Sergio Peterson has written himself into Loftus folklore. He'll be remembered for years to come from that brace. That second try, absolutely sensational. The winning try. That is a truly, truly special win from the Bulls. And yeah, I tell you what, we are very lucky to have witnessed that. But that's not all, people. We will have another game starting a bit later. It will be Munster versus Glasgow Warriors. That kickoff is in just over an hour's time at 7 o'clock. Do come and join me over there. This stream will redirect you over to that one over there, so you don't have to worry about doing anything. Just stay on this, and we'll see you that side. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for joining me, spending your time over here with me, and we'll see you guys all